Chosen one, something shifted the moment you stopped here. Before I say a single word more, I want you to feel what is already moving in your chest. There is a reason you landed on this today. There is a reason you did not keep scrolling. Something in you recognized something in this, and that recognition, that quiet pull that brought you here, is not an accident, and it is not coincidence. You have been in a season. If you are willing to be honest with yourself, you know exactly which season I mean. A season that stretched far longer than you planned for. A season where you prayed, and the answer seemed to take a long, quiet road to get to you. A season where you kept showing up, kept believing, kept putting one foot in front of the other, even on the days when believing felt like the hardest thing a human being could do. The people closest to you may not have fully understood what was happening. Some of them offered explanations, some of them offered timelines. Some of them, the ones who genuinely cared, said things that sounded right on the surface but left you sitting with a quiet weight you could not name. You smiled and thanked them, but inside, the question never stopped. God, where is the thing you promised me? And here is what I need to tell you today. God did not forget. God was not delayed. God was not surprised by a single thing that happened in that season. Not the silence, not the setbacks, not the moments when the thing you were believing for seemed to move further away instead of closer. Every single day of that season was accounted for. Every single day was held with intention. I know that sentence is easy to say and harder to receive when you are standing in the middle of what felt like a long wait. I know there were mornings when you woke up, and the weight of it was the first thing you felt before you had formed a single thought or made a single decision. I know there were nights when you lay in the dark and asked if something was wrong with you, if you had missed something, if you had somehow disqualified yourself from the thing that was supposed to carry your name. And I need you to know what heaven was watching on every one of those mornings, on every one of those nights. Heaven was watching someone choose to keep going when every human calculation said, stop. Heaven was watching someone protect their belief when protecting it cost them something real. Heaven was watching a chosen one in the most significant season of their entire preparation. The season that shapes who you become when the destination finally opens its door. The test was not punishment. The test was preparation, and the test is over. You passed, not because you were perfect in every moment, not because you never doubted, not because you did everything right on your first attempt. You passed because you are still here. You passed because the doubt did not win. You passed because something in you, something deeper than circumstance, would not let go of what God placed inside of you before you drew your first breath. Let that land in your body right now. Feel where it settles. For some of you, it is in your chest, a loosening, like something that has been held tight for months beginning to release. For some of you, it is in your shoulders, a heaviness dissolving that you had stopped noticing because it had been there so long. For some of you, it is a warmth that moves through you and you cannot explain it with logic. But your body knows that feeling is not random. That feeling is confirmation. You did not stumble into this message today. What you found here right now in this specific moment was placed on your path for a reason. The season of waiting prepared you for exactly this moment of receiving. And what comes next for you is not more waiting. What comes next is the thing God has been building while you were enduring the foreground. The test is over. The destination is ready. And today, the bags begin to get packed. There is a reason those words carry weight when you hear them. Pack your bags. Not because the physical preparation is what matters most, but because packing is the action of someone who has stopped waiting and started preparing. It is the action of someone who has made a decision that the season of enduring is behind them and the season of moving is in front of them. And that decision, that interior shift in orientation, is one of the most important things that will happen to you in this chapter of your life. If you are still here right now, something in you already knew you were not here by mistake. Stay with me, because what I am about to show you will not just confirm what your spirit has been sensing. It will reframe the entire season you have been through in a way that changes how you walk into what is next. The signs of a chosen one who has just completed their test season are specific. They are recognizable, and I believe you carry every single one of them. The first sign is one that many chosen ones experience, but very few understand correctly. You have been in a season of waiting that felt disproportionately long compared to the people around you. Not because you were comparing yourself obsessively, but because you noticed. Someone you know received something in weeks that you have been believing for across multiple years. Someone moved into the breakthrough in one season while yours stretched into 2 and then 3, and you found yourself wondering what you were missing. And the subtle danger of that observation is not envy. The danger is the conclusion the mind draws from it. The conclusion that says something must be wrong with the plan. The conclusion that whispers, perhaps you are not as chosen as you thought. Perhaps the calling you sensed was a misread. Perhaps God redirected the assignment to someone more prepared. Perhaps the window closed while you were still waiting for it to open fully. And here is what made those thoughts so hard to dismiss. They sounded reasonable. Here is what that long season was actually about. God does not give a significant destiny to an underprepared person. The size of the wait is often proportional to the size of what is coming. Joseph did not wait 13 years in Egypt because God was slow. Joseph waited 13 years because the position that awaited him required a specific quality of character, wisdom, and unshakable trust that could only be forged through that exact sequence of experiences. Nothing else would have produced what those years produced. Your wait was not a mistake. Your wait was a course. And unlike a course where you can coast through or fake the outcome, this one developed things in you that cannot be manufactured and cannot be rushed. A patience that holds under pressure without becoming bitterness. A trust in God that does not require evidence before it extends. A wisdom about people and processes that only comes from watching, waiting, and surviving seasons without answers. Those qualities are in you now. They are permanent. The delay you experienced was not God withholding from you. It was God installing into you. And the installation is complete. Whatever the next assignment is, the version of you standing at this moment could not have handled it at the beginning of the wait. You are different now. What you carry is different. The wait just became the most valuable credential you will ever hold for the work you were designed to do. The second sign is connected to the first, but carries its own specific weight. At some point in this season, something you expected to happen did not happen on the timeline you had mapped out. Not something vague or distant, something specific. Something you had prayed for with clarity, believed for with conviction, and taken real steps toward in faith, a door that appeared to be opening. And then, for reasons you may not have fully understood at the time, it did not open when you expected it to. This is one of the most disorienting experiences a chosen one can have, because you were not being reckless or presumptuous. You had what felt like genuine clarity about what was supposed to happen and when. You had confirmation in your spirit. You had moved toward it with everything you had, and then the thing you were moving toward shifted. It stayed shut. In some cases, it disappeared entirely, and you were left standing in the space where the breakthrough was supposed to be, wondering if you had imagined the whole thing. What happened there was not a failure of your faith. What happened was a divine rerouting. God allowed you to move toward a destination with full conviction, because that conviction was producing something in you that could not have been produced if you had known the detour was coming. If God had shown you the full map from the beginning, including every turn and every closed door along the way, you would have started differently. You would have guarded yourself from the full investment. But guarded, chosen ones do not grow into the fullness of what they were called to carry. The full trust, the full step, the full belief that takes you all the way to the door only to find it closed. All of that was necessary. And when the expected door did not open, God was not abandoning the plan. God was redirecting it through a route that would arrive at a better version of the destination than the one you had originally imagined. The closed door was not a no, it was a not through there. Because what was on the other side of that particular door was not the fullness of what God had prepared for you. You were not wrong to believe. You were not wrong to move. You were not wrong to feel certain. You simply could not see what God could see. And what God could see was the version of your destination that was worth the longer road. So the thing that looked like a failure of timing was actually evidence of a God who will not let you settle for a smaller version of what was meant to carry your name. The third sign is one that feels uncomfortable to acknowledge directly, but it is one of the most consistent markers of a chosen one in an active preparation season. You have been stripped of your comfort zones. The structures you built your sense of security around have been shifting, ending, or dismantled in ways you did not choose. Relationships that once gave you stability have changed. Positions that once provided you with a sense of identity have been removed or altered. Routines that once grounded you have broken apart. The scaffolding around your life has come off in pieces. And in the beginning of that stripping, it felt like loss, because it was loss. The process of letting go of what you held on to is not painless, and it is not supposed to be. God does not remove things from your hands without it costing something real. But what looked like God taking things away was actually God making room. Because a chosen one who is transitioning into a new season cannot carry everything from the old one with them. Not because the old things were wrong, but because the new season is built differently and requires different things. Think of it this way. If you are being promoted to a role that requires you to relocate entirely, you cannot take every piece of furniture from your current home. Not because the furniture was bad or the home was a mistake, because the new space is configured for a different kind of life. What served you in that season will not serve you in this one. What kept you safe in that season would become a limitation in the next. The stripping was not punishment. It was preparation for portability. It was God clearing the hands that are about to hold something new. The removal was specific. God did not randomly dismantle things. God removed the things that were attached to a version of you that the new season does not have room for. The comfort zones that were keeping you in a smaller version of yourself. The relationships that were confirming a smaller version of your identity than the one you were made for. The routines that were managing your life rather than propelling it into what it was designed to become. Every single removal was targeted. Every single one had a reason. Here is what the stripping was preparing you for. A person who has been stripped of their false securities comes to the new season with a specific kind of freedom. They are no longer arranging their life around protecting what they were comfortable with. They are available. They are open. They are traveling light enough to move when God says move. And that freedom, that availability, that willingness to step forward without the weight of the old, that is exactly what someone needs to fully receive and inhabit what God has been building for them. The fourth sign requires a certain kind of honesty, and I am asking you to bring that honesty right now. There were moments in the test season when you watched the people around you moving into things that looked very much like what you had been believing for. Engagements when you had been praying for a relationship. Promotions when you had been faithful in the same work. breakthroughs in finances when you had been trusting for provision, healing when you had been standing on the same promise. And even if you would never say it out loud, there were moments when witnessing that felt like standing outside of something, looking in through the glass. That experience is one of the most isolating parts of a test season, not because you wished anyone failure or carried bitterness toward the people receiving good things, but because the contrast revealed something raw and undefended about your own hunger, and there was a voice in that contrast, subtle and persistent, that used the comparison to plant a question you kept having to fight. If God is faithful and God loves you and God has a plan specifically for you, then why does that plan seem to be unfolding in visible and concrete ways for everyone around you, while yours remains invisible and intangible? Here is what you could not see from where you were standing. What you were watching others receive was real and good and genuinely theirs for their specific assignment. But what God was building for you was not in the same category. The thing you were watching others receive was sized to their calling. The thing God was preparing for you was sized to yours. And your calling is not their calling. Your capacity is not their capacity. The timing of your harvest is not the timing of their harvest. You were never running the same race, not even close. The test of comparison is one of the most sophisticated challenges a chosen one faces in a preparation season, because it uses real, genuinely good things happening to real people to create a distortion in your perception of where you stand with God. God does not have favorites among the chosen. God has different timings for different purposes. And the timing that felt like being left behind was actually the timing of someone who was being prepared for an assignment that required a deeper and more specific preparation than the people around them needed for theirs. And here is what that long season of watching also built in you. It expanded what you know is possible. Every time you saw someone step into something you had been believing for, your imagination of what God can do in a life was enlarged and made more concrete. It also built in you something rare and genuinely precious, the ability to celebrate what God does for people around you without making their blessing the measure of your value or the evidence of how God feels about you. That quality, that capacity, most people cannot sustain it under real pressure. You did, and you will carry it into the new season with you. The fifth sign is the one that confirms everything else. In the middle of the test, there were moments when you felt something that did not match your circumstances. Not forced positivity, not emotional management or discipline. Something quieter and much more foundational. A peace that arrived out of nowhere and settled in you at the exact moment when, by every human calculation, you should have been falling apart. A stillness that appeared when the storm was at its loudest. A sense that you were held even when every visible piece of evidence of being held had gone dark and you could not explain it. That peace was not your resilience. That peace was not the result of your spiritual practice or your positive thinking or your willpower. That peace was the direct presence of God meeting you in the middle of the test and giving you something that the test environment itself could not remove. Paul wrote about a peace that surpasses all understanding, a peace that would guard the hearts and minds of those who bring everything to God in prayer. He was not writing about a concept, he was writing from experience. He had been in seasons where the peace he felt made no logical sense given his circumstances, and it guarded him anyway. Those moments of unexplainable peace were not random. They were signals sent directly to your spirit. They were God confirming in your body, in your nervous system, in the quiet center of who you are, that you were not alone in the test, that you were not forgotten, that the destination was still real and still being built. The peace came specifically when the evidence went quiet, because God knew that in those moments, what you needed was not more evidence. What you needed was God Himself as the confirmation, and that is what you received. Those moments changed you permanently. Every single time you experienced peace that should not have been possible given what was happening around you, you learned something about the nature of God that cannot be transferred by a sermon or a book. You learned in your own body that God is present in the silence, that God is active when nothing visible is moving, that God does not require your circumstances to be favorable before His presence is fully available to you. That knowledge is now woven into who you are. It will be the bedrock of how you move in the season ahead. These 5 signs are not marks of a person who is behind. They are not marks of someone who made mistakes or missed their window or let their season pass without receiving what was intended. They are the marks of a person who has been through a specific and sacred preparation season and emerged from it carrying something that cannot be manufactured or transferred. They are the marks of a chosen one whose test just ended. And they are the marks of someone who is standing exactly where they are supposed to be standing right now. Now I want to go deeper with you than the signs, because knowing you passed the test is one thing. Understanding why the test existed at all is something that will permanently change how you walk into the season that is opening in front of you. And that understanding begins with a question most people are afraid to ask God directly. Why does a God who already knows everything about me put me through a test at all? The answers that tradition most often offers to that question are variations of a familiar theme. God tests you to see how strong your faith is. God tests you to build character. God tests you to see whether you will remain faithful when faithfulness costs you something. And while there are elements of truth present in those answers, they all carry a hidden assumption I want to press on directly. They all assume that God needs information. They assume the test exists to discover something God does not already know about you. But God does not need information about you. God knew before you were formed in the womb what your capacity was, what your faith would hold, what your character would produce under pressure. God, who marked you as chosen before you drew your first breath, is not conducting an experiment to figure out whether the choice was a wise one. That framing makes God uncertain about you. And the God who calls a thing by its finished name before it has even started is not uncertain about the ones He has called. So if the test is not about God gathering information, then what is it actually for? Here is the answer that the architecture of Scripture actually supports when you read it without the lens of religious fear. God does not take chosen ones through test seasons to find out who they are. God takes chosen ones through test seasons to show them who they are. The difference between those two purposes is everything. The test is not about God discovering something new about you. The test is about you coming into full knowledge of what God has always known you carry. Think about what that reframe changes. If the test is God gathering information, then every moment of doubt you experienced was a failure. Every question was evidence against you. Every broken moment was a point deducted. But if the test is God revealing to you what He already knows about you, then every moment you survived was a revelation. Every time you came through something that should have broken you, you were seeing yourself the way God has always seen you. The doubt did not disqualify you. The doubt was the pressure that proved the substance of what was underneath it. This is why the test felt so personal. This is why it pressed exactly on the places you were most uncertain about yourself. God was not attacking your vulnerabilities. God was pressing on your uncertainties so that when you came through, you would have evidence in your own lived experience that those uncertainties were not the final word on who you are. You came through the thing you thought might break you, and now you know something about yourself that no one can argue with because you lived it. That knowing belongs to you permanently. There is a consistent pattern in Scripture around every chosen one who received a significant assignment. Every single one, without exception, was taken through a preparation season that looked completely disproportionate to the assignment from the outside. Too long, too personal, too specific, too much pressure for what seemed to be required. But from the inside of what God was building in each one of them, every single element of that preparation was precisely calibrated. David was anointed king as a teenager and then spent the next decade running for his life in the wilderness, hunted by the very king he had been promised to replace. From the outside, that looks like the plan breaking down. From the inside of what God was constructing in David during those years, every narrow escape and every night in a cave, and every moment of choosing not to take revenge when he had the opportunity, was building the specific character quality that Israel would need in a king for generations. A man who had received mercy in the wilderness would govern with mercy from the throne. Moses spent 40 years in the desert as a shepherd after fleeing Egypt before God appeared to him in a burning bush. 40 years. And when God gave him the assignment to lead an entire nation out of slavery, Moses offered every objection he could find. He was not eloquent. No one would believe him. He said to please send someone else. Every word out of his mouth was the voice of a man who had spent 40 years forgetting who he was. The desert had not made him less. The desert had stripped away everything he had mistaken for his identity. What was left was the man God had always seen. Your season carried the same design, not the same duration, not the same circumstances, but the same intention. The test was the excavation. It removed the things that were built on foundations that would not hold the weight of what is coming. It removed the confidence that was borrowed from external validation and replaced it with a confidence rooted in having actually survived something real. It removed the assumptions about how things work and replaced them with a knowing that lives in the body, not just in the mind. And here is what Moses came back with after 40 years in the desert. That was the actual credential for leading a nation, not leadership experience, not political connections or military strategy. He came back with the ability to hear the voice of God in the silence of a desert and trust it without requiring anything external to confirm it first. That was the credential. Everything else, every miracle and every confrontation, and every moment of leading 2 million people through impossible terrain, everything ran through that one thing, the ability to hear clearly and trust fully. That is exactly what your season was building in you. Not just the visible skills, though you did develop those. Not just the connections, though those were made. What the test built in you at the deepest level is the specific interior quality that the assignment ahead of you requires most. The capacity to hear clearly and move decisively in the absence of external validation or visible evidence. That quality cannot be transferred to you from the outside. It had to be developed inside you through the exact experiences you went through, and it is now in you. It belongs to you. And now hear this directly and receive it fully. The formation is complete. I am not delivering a message that tells you the process is still ongoing. I am delivering a message that tells you this specific moment you are standing in is on the other side of the formation. The test is behind you. The excavation is finished. What you needed for the next season has been placed in you. What is coming is not more preparation. It is the beginning of the actual work your preparation was for. But here is what I want you to understand about the transition into a new season. It does not happen automatically. It does not occur simply because the test ended. It requires a specific kind of interior movement, a conscious decision to pick up the bags, a deliberate act of preparing for the new rather than passively waiting for it to arrive and carry you. Because a chosen one who steps into their next season without making this interior shift will feel the pull of the new and the weight of the old simultaneously. And that tension, if it is not addressed, can become its own form of stagnation in the middle of a season that was designed for momentum. The bags you are packing right now are not all bags you take with you. Some of them are bags you are leaving behind at the threshold. The bag of the waiting season identity. The story of being the one who was always close but never quite there. The bag of the careful defenses you built to protect yourself from another disappointment. The guardedness that developed because you genuinely needed it in the season you were surviving. Those things served you. They are now too heavy for the terrain you are entering. Before I take you further into what the new season looks like and what it is specifically asking of you, I want to mention something I am going to come back to in much more detail. There is a group of neuroscientists led by a doctor in New York City who has spent 2 decades studying the brain, and what they discovered changes the conversation about why some chosen ones, who have completed every part of their preparation, still struggle to fully step into the new season, while others make that transition with what looks like unexpected ease. What they found has to do with something that happens inside the brain during prolonged seasons of waiting, sustained faith, and pressure. And it has direct relevance to every chosen one who is standing right now at the edge of a new chapter. I am going to show you exactly what that discovery is and what it means for you before this message ends. But first, I need to give you what comes next, because the new season has specific features and specific requirements, and knowing what they are before you take your first step into it is one of the most important pieces of preparation left. Chosen one, if something in what you have heard so far has found a real place inside of you, type 777 inches, the comments right now. Let that number be your first declaration that you received what this part of the message was sent to carry. 777 means, I know this is for me. 777 means, the test is over and I am ready for what comes next. Type it now. What we are stepping into next is the specific landscape of the season that is opening. Because knowing the test ended is not the same as knowing how to inhabit what comes after it. There is a way of seeing the new season that changes everything about how you receive it. There is a way of stepping through the door that carries the fullness of what you developed in the test and leaves behind what does not belong in the next chapter. That is the conversation ahead of us. And if the first part of this message found you, the next part was made for the version of you that is already beginning to pack the bags. There is a specific kind of person who has completed a test season and finds themselves standing at the edge of the new chapter, feeling 2 things at the same time: relief that the test is over, and an unexpected resistance to the door that is now open. That resistance has a name, and understanding that name is the first piece of business for the season you are entering, because if you do not name it correctly, it will slow the transition without you ever understanding why. The resistance is not weakness. The resistance is not unbelief. The resistance is the signal of someone whose entire interior was configured around the posture of enduring. And enduring, over a long season, creates a specific kind of neural and emotional architecture. An architecture built for vigilance, built for managing disappointment, built for protecting the deepest hopes from full exposure. That architecture does not simply dissolve the moment the circumstances change. It requires specific instruction and deliberate permission to release. There is a profound difference between a person who believes in good things theoretically and a person who allows good things to land in their life in a concrete and embodied way. The first kind of believing is what gets you through a test season. The second kind is what allows you to inhabit the answer to what you were believing for. And the movement from one to the other is not passive. It requires you to make a specific interior decision that the season of pressing has genuinely ended and the season of receiving has genuinely begun. That decision is not made once. It is made again and again in the days ahead as the old architecture notices the new terrain and tries to apply old strategies to new circumstances. This is why the instruction in this message is so precise. Pack your bags, not observe the new season from a careful distance, not continue holding the posture of the test as a precautionary measure in case the new season turns out to be another test. Pack your bags. Take the interior action of someone who has made a decision, someone who has chosen to believe the destination is real and the journey toward it has already started, regardless of whether all the visible evidence has appeared yet. What does it practically look like to pack for a season you have not yet fully stepped into? It begins with a deliberate release of the narrative that the test season created about you. Every season creates a story. The test season created a story about you as someone defined by what you are waiting for, someone whose primary posture is endurance, someone who has learned to hold hope at a controlled distance to protect it from full exposure. That story is true. It served you, but it is not the whole story, and it is not the story of the season you are entering. The new season has a different story. A story not organized primarily around what you survived, but around what you are stepping into. A story not primarily defined by what was withheld, but by what is now being released. A story where the test is the backstory rather than the headline. And the first act of packing your bags is picking up that new story deliberately and letting it become the language you use about yourself. Not a denial of the test. Not pretending the waiting did not cost you anything. An honest, intentional choice to let the completeness of the preparation season speak louder than the memory of its difficulty. Before we go fully into the landscape of the new season, I need to show you something critical, because the greatest risk for a chosen one who has just completed a test season is not the test itself, which is already behind you. The greatest risk is what I would call the counterfeit completion. And the counterfeit completion is exactly what it sounds like. It is a false version of the new season that presents itself in the gap between the closing of the test and the full opening of the genuine next chapter. The counterfeit completion is seductive because it requires less of you than the real thing. It offers relief without the full transition. It offers a version of what you were waiting for that is faster to access, easier to control, and lighter in its demands on your character and your patience. And a chosen one who has been enduring for a long time is precisely the kind of person most vulnerable to the counterfeit, because the exhaustion of the endurance is real. The hunger that the test did not satisfy is real, and the counterfeit knows both of those things. The first counterfeit is the rush. The rush is the impulse, now that the door is open, to move into the new season at a pace that compensates for the time you feel was taken from you in the test. The rush says, "I have waited long enough. I will not wait another day. I will take what is available right now, even if it is not quite the specific thing that was promised." The rush is not malicious. It comes from genuine and understandable hunger. But the rush leads chosen ones into the outer rooms of the new season before they have properly prepared for the center of it. And a chosen one who moves too fast past the threshold often finds themselves having to rebuild from inside the new season rather than having been properly established as they entered. The second counterfeit is the retreat. After a long test season, some chosen ones encounter the open door and find that they cannot fully enter it. Not because the door is wrong, not because they are unqualified, but because the safety structure built during the test, the careful avoidance of full hope, the protection against another disappointment, the strategic distance between the heart and the thing being believed for, that structure does not dissolve on its own when the circumstances change. And instead of pressing through the discomfort of full entry, they remain at the threshold, close enough to see the new season clearly, not far enough inside it to be fully changed by it. The retreat disguises itself as wisdom. It speaks the language of discernment. It says things like, I want to be sure before I fully commit. I am waiting for unambiguous confirmation. I do not want to presume on what God has not yet explicitly spoken, and while those instincts are genuinely valuable in many contexts, in the context of a completed test season with an open door that carries every confirming sign, they can be the voice of the old survival structure, protecting itself rather than the voice of genuine divine discernment. The fear that looks like wisdom is still fear, and fear of receiving is just as much of a block as fear of losing. The third counterfeit is the familiar substitute. The familiar substitute is something that has the general shape of what you are waiting for, but is sourced from within the same environment that produced the test. It offers you a version of the promise that you can understand, explain, and partially control. It does not require the full measure of trust that the genuine article requires. It does not ask you to step fully into the unknown the way the real thing will, and choosing it feels like moving forward. But it is actually a lateral movement into a different category of the old season, rather than a genuine transition into the new. Recognizing the counterfeit does not require heightened suspicion of every opportunity that appears. It requires the specific quality of discernment that your test season was designed to develop in you. The quality of being able to tell the difference between what is genuinely yours and what is merely available, between what was prepared for you and what you are simply capable of acquiring with enough effort, between the door that has your name on it in a way that goes all the way through and the door that is simply standing open. A chosen one who has completed a test season carries a recognition capacity they did not have at the beginning. Before the test, most chosen ones accept the first available version of what they are believing for, not because they are foolish, but because they have not yet experienced the specific formation that teaches discernment. After the test, the waiting has refined the sense of what the real thing feels like versus what merely resembles it. That refinement is now in you. It was built through every experience in the test season. Trust it. Now I want to take you into a recognition that has specific relevance for the identity you are stepping into as you cross the threshold of this new season. Because one of the things the test season produced in you is not just general character. It produced a specific archetypal identity, a specific role within the larger design of what God is doing in this generation. And understanding your archetypal role changes everything about how you relate to the assignment that is ahead of you. The first archetype that the test season commonly produces is the cycle breaker. The cycle breaker is a chosen one who was called not just to a personal destiny, but to end a pattern that has run through their family or their community or their generation for long enough that most people who live within it no longer recognize it as a pattern. They have normalized the limitation. They have built their expectations around it. They have passed it to their children as if it were simply how things are for people like them. The cycle breaker carries a specific ache that others in their family or community do not fully understand. A sense that something that has been accepted as normal should not be accepted. A refusal to settle into the story that was assigned to them by the family history or the community narrative. And the test season for a cycle breaker is often particularly long and particularly difficult because breaking a cycle that has run for generations requires a character formation that is equal to the weight of the pattern being broken. You cannot break what you have not been made strong enough to break. The second archetype the test season produces is the deep root. The deep root is a chosen one who is being positioned not for a visible public-facing assignment, but for a foundational one. An assignment that will support the visible work of many others. An assignment that looks ordinary from the outside, but carries an invisible weight that makes everything built on top of it possible. The deep root test season is often marked by obscurity, by the sense that nothing visible is happening. by the experience of doing the right things without recognition or acknowledgement. The deep root test is one of the most challenging because it presses directly on the hunger for visible fruit. It asks the question of whether you can continue doing what you were made to do in the complete absence of evidence that anyone notices or values what you are contributing. And the deep root that comes through that test carries something rare: the ability to serve without needing to be seen, the capacity to be foundational without needing to be celebrated, the freedom to do the invisible work that everything visible depends on. The third archetype is the restored one. The restored one is a chosen one whose primary assignment runs directly through what they were stripped of in the test season, not around it, not in spite of it, through it. The restored one is being positioned to speak into, serve, and carry others through the exact category of loss or limitation or waiting that they themselves endured. And the depth of their capacity to do that is precisely proportional to the depth of what they survived. Nothing is wasted. Every specific experience of the test is raw material for the specific service of the calling. There is something I want to say about all three of these archetypes that applies regardless of which one most closely resembles your own story. Each of them carries within the test season a specific temptation that is unique to their particular calling. The cycle breaker is tempted to settle for a smaller version of the breaking because the full version requires risking more than any ancestor before them has risked. The deep root is tempted to seek the visible assignment when the invisible one is what they were actually designed for. The restored one is tempted to minimize what they went through in order to make their story more palatable or more acceptable to the people they are being sent to serve. The test season addressed each of these temptations directly, and the version of you that came through the test has already demonstrated in the crucible of the actual experience that you can resist the counterfeit version of your calling. You already proved that. You may not have recognized it at the time as a test of your archetypal faithfulness, but that is exactly what it was, and you passed. Not in a way that eliminated every struggle, but in the only way that counts. You are still here. You are still oriented toward the real thing. You did not settle for the smaller version when the pressure was highest. Now I want to take you into the story of someone who walked this exact path, not as a historical figure to admire from a distance, but as someone whose specific journey mirrors the architecture of what you have been through with a precision that I believe will leave you unable to see your own season the same way after this. His name was Joseph, and the arc of his story, when you see it in the full context of what his test season was building in him, is not simply a story about perseverance. It is a story about preparation, specific, targeted, intentional preparation for an assignment that could not have been given to anyone who had not gone through exactly what he went through. And the reason his story has survived thousands of years is not because it is unusual. It is because it is the blueprint. Joseph received a dream when he was young, a specific and undeniable dream that showed him elevated, shown in a position of authority and influence that extended far beyond his household. He received it with the guileless certainty of someone who had not yet learned that the clearest calling often comes with the longest and most demanding preparation. He shared it openly, because in his innocence he could not have known what that sharing would cost him. And what it cost him was the first stripping. His brothers threw him into a pit. He went from a cherished son with a dream to a piece of property in a hole in the ground in the span of a single afternoon. And here is what I want you to feel about that moment, not just understand intellectually. Joseph did not see the palace from the pit. He could not have. The pit and the palace are not visible to each other from inside either one. He was in the pit, not knowing whether he would survive it. Not knowing the pit was part of the path. not knowing that the betrayal that put him there was not the end of the story. All he knew in that moment was that the people he had trusted most had chosen to be rid of him. He was sold to traveling merchants. He arrived in Egypt as a slave, and he made a choice in that environment that would define everything that came after it. He chose to serve with the same quality of character in the place of his captivity that he had carried in the home where he was cherished. He worked with integrity. He grew in responsibility. He became trusted enough to be put in charge of everything his master owned. And for a moment, again, it looked like the shape of the promise beginning to emerge. Then the second loss. Falsely accused, reputation destroyed, freedom taken, back to the lowest position. And if you have ever done the most right thing and found yourself losing the most because of it, if you have ever paid a real price for choosing integrity when the alternative was available and cheaper, then you know what that particular experience does to the question of whether integrity is worth maintaining. Joseph knew that question from the inside. He answered it from the pit and from the prison, not once, multiple times. In the prison, Joseph did not waste his suffering. He paid attention to the people around him. He noticed when someone was troubled. He engaged with their distress. He offered what he had to offer with no guarantee of return. And when the opportunity came to help, he helped fully and without calculation. He was not managing his resources. He was serving from what he had been given, in the place he had been placed, with the people who were present. And that posture, that complete absence of self-protective calculation about where to invest his gifts, was exactly the quality the palace would one day require of him. You cannot govern fairly if you have been trained only to serve strategically. When Pharaoh needed an interpreter and the cupbearer finally remembered, Joseph walked out of the prison and into the most powerful room in the known world. What Pharaoh encountered was not a man who had been diminished by injustice. What Pharaoh encountered was a man who had been refined by it, a man whose capacity for mercy had been formed by having needed mercy, whose understanding of the difference between short-term and long-term thinking had been formed by years of watching what happens when people only make decisions based on what they can see, whose trust in God had been formed not by the easy confirmation of a dream, but by the faithfulness of God in the pit and the prison and the years of the forgotten wait. Joseph was given authority over all of Egypt, and the first thing he did with that authority, before any of the policy decisions and the logistics of managing abundance and famine, was to serve, to organize the resources of the most powerful nation in the region in a way that would save not just Egypt but the surrounding nations, including the very brothers who had sold him. That is not a human response to having been betrayed. That is the response of someone who had been specifically formed for it. The test was not the obstacle to the assignment. The test was the requirement for the assignment. Chosen one. If you have been hearing yourself in the story of Joseph, type the words "I see it" in the comments right now. Not as a performance, as an act of claiming the parallel, of saying out loud, I recognize myself in the one who came through. I see what was being built in my season. I see it. Type those words now. And if this message has been speaking to something that has needed to be spoken to, gently press the like right now. Not because the number matters, because someone who is still in the middle of their pit needs this message to reach them today. Your action carries this forward. Press it gently. There is a woman whose story I want to share briefly before we move forward, because her experience is one of the clearest illustrations I have encountered of what happens when a chosen one fully crosses the threshold from the test season into the new one. She had been believing for a specific outcome for 7 years, 7 full years, not in a vague way. She had prayed with specific language and held specific belief through multiple seasons where the evidence went completely silent. She had watched people around her receive what looked like the thing she was waiting for. She had held on through multiple moments where the rational response would have been to stop expecting it. In the 7th year, the door opened, not loudly, not dramatically, quietly at first, then unmistakably. And what came through was not just the thing she had been waiting for. It was a version of the thing that had been made more specific, more complete, and more precisely fitted to who she had become in the 7 years of the wait than anything she could have received in year 1 or year 2. She said afterward that she understood for the first time that God had not been slow. God had been building what she needed to be before the thing she was waiting for could land the way it was meant to land. She said something I want to give you to carry into the next section. She said the waiting did not feel like preparation while it was happening. It felt exactly like what it looked like from the outside. Delay. God elsewhere. Being forgotten. And, looking back from where she now stands, she would not subtract a single year of the 7, because those 7 years were not 7 years of waiting. They were 7 years of being shaped into the person the answer was designed for. There is a specific quality that the test season installed in you that I want to name carefully before we go any further, because it is one that chosen ones often minimize or dismiss in themselves without recognizing its significance. The quality of held tension. A person who has gone through a prolonged test season learns to hold 2 contradictory things at the same time without resolving the contradiction prematurely. They learn to hold the pain of the waiting and the certainty of the promise. They learn to hold the evidence of what has not happened and the belief in what will happen. They learn to hold the questions and the trust simultaneously without requiring one to eliminate the other. That capacity, the capacity to hold tension without collapsing it, is one of the rarest and most valuable qualities a human being can carry into any significant assignment. Because every significant assignment involves exactly that kind of tension. The tension between what is and what should be. The tension between what you can see and what you are called to build. The tension between the current reality and the future you are working toward. A person who cannot hold that tension either retreats from the assignment when it becomes painful or moves too fast through the discomfort and makes decisions that undermine the long-term work for the sake of short-term relief. You know how to hold it. You develop that capacity in the test season. Every day you held your belief alongside your unanswered questions without abandoning either one. Was a day you were strengthening that specific muscle, and the assignment ahead of you, whatever form it takes, will require that muscle in ways you may not yet be able to see. The capacity to stay in the tension is not a limitation. It is a superpower. It is what keeps chosen ones anchored while everything around them is shifting. The new season also has a different relationship to time than the test season did. The test season felt slow, painstaking, day by day with little visible progress and long stretches of nothing apparently changing. The new season often has the opposite character. Things begin to move at a pace that can feel disorienting if you are not prepared for it. Doors open faster than expected. Connections appear from unexpected directions. Opportunities arrive before you feel fully ready. And a chosen one who has been calibrated to the slow pace of the test season can find the sudden acceleration of the new season as challenging to navigate as the slowness of the old one, but for the opposite reason. The challenge is not that things are moving too fast. The challenge is that someone calibrated to expecting slowness and delay interprets rapid movement with suspicion. The old survival architecture, the one built during the test, is designed to protect against disappointment. And when things start moving quickly, that architecture may register the speed as a warning signal rather than a confirmation. It may whisper that things moving this fast cannot be sustained, that something will go wrong. that the other shoe is about to drop. I am telling you now, ahead of that experience, what to do with that voice when it appears. You receive it. You hear it without agreeing with it. You recognize it as the voice of an architecture that was built for a different terrain and is doing its job, which is protecting you. And then you consciously, deliberately, choose the posture of the new season rather than the posture of the old one. You choose the posture of someone who is receiving with both hands open rather than someone who is waiting to see whether what is arriving is real before they let themselves fully believe it. There is another specific feature of the new season that deserves careful attention. The new season is communal in a way the test season was not. The test season, by design, is largely solitary, not necessarily in the sense of literal isolation, though some chosen ones do experience that, but in the sense of the primary formation work being something that happens inside the individual. The test season is between you and God in a way that others cannot fully enter. They can support you. They can walk alongside you. But the core work of the formation, the shaping, the excavating, the installing, that work happens in the interior and no one else can do it for you. The new season reverses that. The new season positions you in relation to other people in a specific and intentional way. The qualities you developed in the test, the wisdom, the discernment, the capacity to hold tension, the mercy formed by having needed mercy, all of those qualities are designed to operate in relationship. They are not for display, they are for function. And the people you are going to be positioned with in the new season are people who will need exactly what the test built in you, just as you will need what the test built in them. Pay attention in the days ahead to the connections that form unexpectedly, to the people who appear at unusual junctions, to the conversations that carry a weight that is disproportionate to how briefly you have known the person you are having them with. The new season positions chosen ones with other chosen ones, and the sense of recognition you feel when you encounter someone else who carries the marks of a preparation season, someone who knows from the inside what the silence sounds like and what the test costs. That recognition is not accidental. That is God assembling the people the assignment requires. The shaping is complete. The person the answer was designed for already exists. You already exist. And the landscape of the season opening in front of you is not a continuation of the test in a new form. It is a genuinely different kind of terrain. It has different features, different requirements, and different gifts to offer. And before you take another step into it, there are specific things about that landscape you need to understand, because knowing them will make every movement inside the new season more precise and more effective. That is where we are going next, into the specific architecture of the new season, what it looks like, what it asks of you, what it offers that nothing in the test season could offer, and how the qualities you developed in the test are not just useful in the new season, but are specifically required by it in ways you may not yet have recognized. What was taken from you in the test? The things that were stripped, the securities that were removed. Those were not simply removed. They were exchanged for something that the new season requires and that could not have been given to you without the space the stripping created. The bags are packed. You are standing at the threshold, and what is on the other side of that threshold was designed for the specific version of you that is standing here right now. The new season does not arrive as a single dramatic change. It arrives as a reorganization, and the reorganization happens in 3 specific areas of your life simultaneously, not sequentially, not one at a time, all 3 at once. Understanding this is important because a chosen one who does not know this often interprets the simultaneous movement in multiple areas as chaos, as things falling apart, as evidence that the new season is not actually as good as they hoped, when, in fact, The simultaneous reorganization in all three areas is exactly what a genuine new season looks like from the inside during the transition. The first area of reorganization is relationships. The new season restructures the relational landscape of the chosen one in ways that are sometimes gradual and sometimes surprisingly sudden. Relationships that were central in the test season may shift toward the periphery. Not because they become bad or harmful, not because you are being asked to abandon people you love, but because the relational core of the new season is configured differently than the relational core of the test season. The test season required a specific kind of companionship, the kind that knows how to wait alongside, the kind that can sit with someone in the uncertainty without needing to solve it, the kind that can still believe in a calling when all the visible evidence says the calling is not coming together. That is a rare and precious kind of companionship, and you may have found it in unexpected places during the test, in people who surprised you with their steadiness, in connections that formed out of shared waiting rather than shared activity. Those connections are not going away. What is changing is the nature of the need. The new season requires companionship that knows how to move. Companionship that can run alongside someone who is gaining momentum rather than someone who is standing still. And those two capacities sometimes exist in the same people and sometimes do not. Pay attention in this season to who accelerates when you accelerate, to who leans in when you lean into the new. Some people who were faithful and present in the waiting season will find the acceleration disorienting, not because they want you to fail, but because your movement disrupts the equilibrium of the relational dynamic you shared during the stationary season. They knew how to love you in the waiting. They are still learning how to love you in the moving. And that is not a betrayal. That is a transition. And it takes time for relationships to adjust to a new relational reality. But there are also people who will appear in the transition who were not part of the test season. People who arrive with a specific energy and a specific resonance that signals to your spirit that they belong in this chapter. Do not dismiss those connections as coincidental. In the new season, God assembles the relational environment of the assignment intentionally. The people who appear in the opening weeks and months of the transition are not random, they are positioned. They carry something for you, and you carry something for them. And the sense of recognition you feel in those connections, the sense of, I have been waiting to meet someone who understands this, is the sign that you are meeting a person who was prepared for this chapter of your life in the same way you were prepared for it. The relational reorganization of the new season is not something to manage or control. It is something to be present to notice, to welcome, with openness rather than fear. The people God is adding are carrying gifts you will need. The shifts in the existing relationships are creating space for the depth and the focus the assignment requires. The whole relational landscape is being reconfigured for what is coming. Trust the reorganization. Stay present to what it is producing. The second area of reorganization is energy. The test season was a season of managed energy. A chosen one in a prolonged test season learns to be very careful with where they place their attention and their effort, because the test is ongoing, and exhaustion is a real risk. They develop a kind of spiritual and emotional economy. They learn to conserve, to prioritize, to avoid spending themselves in directions that are not directly related to what they are enduring. The new season asks the opposite of that. The new season asks for a more open and less calculated relationship with your energy. Not recklessness, not the absence of discernment about where to invest yourself, but a willingness to bring your full energy and your full presence to what is in front of you without the constant internal accounting that the test season required. A willingness to be moved, to be excited, to allow your energy to flow toward what is genuinely engaging without pulling it back as a precaution. This is harder than it sounds for someone who has been in a long test season. The conservation instinct does not turn off the moment the test ends. It has been reinforced over months or years, and it runs deeply. And when the new season presents something exciting or expansive or genuinely energizing, the conservation instinct may respond to that energy with caution rather than openness. It may interpret genuine enthusiasm as a warning signal, because enthusiasm was often followed by disappointment in the test season, and the system learned to protect itself by not getting too enthusiastic too early. What I want to give you right now is explicit permission to feel the energy of the new season without pulling it back. Permission to allow yourself to be genuinely excited about what is opening. Permission to invest your attention and your presence fully in what you are stepping into without waiting for confirmation that it is safe to invest before you invest. The confirmation that it is safe to invest has already been given. The test produced it. The preparation confirmed it. God, who marked you as chosen, is the one who opened the door. You do not need to wait for additional clearance before you bring your full energy to what is right in front of you. There is also an energy shift that happens specifically in the spiritual dimension when a chosen one crosses the threshold from the test season into the new one. The test season asks for a particular kind of spiritual energy. The new season restores. The spiritual energy of the new season flows differently. There is a receptivity that begins to open that was not available in the same way during the test. A capacity to receive from God, not just to persist toward God. The third area of reorganization is time. The test season creates a specific relationship with time. A chosen one in a prolonged test season often develops a painful awareness of time, of how much has passed, of how much longer it might take, of the gap between where they are and where they expected to be by now. Time in the test season can feel like an antagonist, something that is either moving too slowly or passing with not enough to show for it. The new season transforms that relationship. Time in the new season becomes an ally rather than an opponent. The chosen one who has been through the test begins to understand that the timeline they were on, the one that felt wrong and slow and off schedule, was precisely calibrated to produce the version of them that is now able to receive what is coming. Every season that felt wasted was building something. Every year that felt like a gap was actually a year of formation. The timeline was never the problem. The perspective on the timeline was the problem. This shift in the relationship with time is not theoretical. It manifests in practical ways in the new season. The chosen one who has made peace with the timeline of the test season is able to be fully present in the moment of the new season without the distraction of the gap. They are not spending the energy of the new season grieving the years they feel they lost in the test. They are fully available to what is right in front of them. And full presence in the new season is one of the most critical factors in what the new season can produce. Most people, regardless of their spiritual maturity, spend a significant portion of their energy and attention in places other than the present moment. They spend it in the memory of what has already passed, or in the anticipation of what has not yet arrived. The test season, by forcing such a prolonged engagement with uncertainty, actually creates in the chosen one who survives it a specific capacity for present moment engagement that is the natural product of having had nothing certain to hold on to except the present. There was nothing in the test season to project onto the future with confidence. There was only this day and what was asked of it. That specific capacity, the capacity to be fully in the present moment with whatever is happening, is going to be one of the most practically useful things you carry into the new season. It is the quality that allows a chosen one to notice what others miss, to respond to what is actually present rather than what they are projecting or fearing, to make decisions based on what is real rather than what is historical. The new season will present you with moments that require full presence in order to be navigated well, and the test season prepared you for exactly that. There is something in the ancient language of the Hebrew scriptures that I want to show you because it illuminates the transition you are in right now in a way that the English translation does not fully capture. There is a word in Hebrew, tsara, that is often translated as trouble or adversity or distress. It is used throughout the Psalms and the prophets to describe the kind of pressure that squeezes, the kind of suffering that constricts. The word tsara actually comes from a root that means to be narrow or to be pressed in on all sides. It carries within it the image of a space that is too small, a place where there is not enough room to move or breathe. That is an accurate picture of what the test season feels like from the inside. A narrowing, a compression, a sense of being pressed in from every side with insufficient space to expand into what you were designed to become. And then there is another word, the word yasha, often translated as salvation or deliverance or rescue. But the root of yasha means to make wide, to create spaciousness, to remove the walls that were constricting and allow the person to expand into the full measure of what they were designed for. The deliverance being described is not just escape from a bad situation, it is the restoration of room, the restoration of the capacity to breathe and move and become. This is the movement you are in, from Zara to Yasha, from the narrow place to the wide place. The season you were in was characterized by compression, by the feeling of not enough room, not enough time, not enough evidence, not enough movement. And the season that is opening is characterized by expansion, by the restoration of space, by God making wide what was made narrow, and making room for the full measure of what was compressed in the test. You were never going to stay in the narrow place permanently. The narrow place was always a passage, not a home. And you are now exiting the passage and entering the spaciousness that the passage was leading toward. This is what the test was always heading toward. The wide place, the room to become, the freedom to expand into what the compression was preparing you to hold. Most people who have been listening this long are not here casually. You are here because something in this message found something in you that recognized it. If you are still here and the words have been landing in the right places, I want you to feel that recognition for a moment. Because it is not just the recognition of information, it is the recognition of identity. And recognizing your identity as a chosen one who has completed a test season and is stepping into what comes next is the first practical act of living inside the new season, rather than just knowing about it. Now I want to give you 3 specific tools for the transition. Not philosophical frameworks, not general encouragements. Specific, practical, usable tools that address the 3 most common challenges chosen ones face in the first weeks and months of stepping into the new season. These tools were developed not from theory but from the specific observations of what happens when chosen ones who have completed preparation seasons attempt the transition, what goes smoothly, what stalls, and what makes the difference. The first tool is what I would call the release inventory. The release inventory is a specific internal practice for identifying and deliberately releasing the elements of the test season identity that will become burdens rather than assets in the new season. Because not everything you developed in the test season belongs in the new one. Some of what you built in the test was built for the specific conditions of the test and will create friction if you attempt to operate with it in the entirely different conditions of the new season. The release inventory works like this. You take 3 specific categories and you ask yourself what you are still carrying from the test season that was built for the test season rather than for what comes after it. The first category is beliefs about what is possible. The test season often produces beliefs that were adaptive in the test but limiting in the new season. Beliefs like things do not move quickly for me, or good things require extraordinary effort, or I should not expect this to be easy. Those beliefs served a function in the test. They managed disappointment. They calibrated expectations to what was actually happening. But in the new season, they will apply a ceiling to what you allow yourself to receive. The second category in the release inventory is relational patterns. The patterns you developed in the test season for how you relate to people. The guardedness, the pattern of not revealing too much too early, because revelation had cost you something in the test. The pattern of waiting for evidence before investing. Those patterns were wise responses to the specific environment of the test. But in the new season, they will create unnecessary barriers between you and the people who were prepared to walk alongside you in the assignment. The new season requires a different kind of relational openness. The third category is self-definition, how you define yourself in your own internal language. The test season produced certain self-defining phrases. I am someone who has been waiting. I am someone who is still becoming. I am someone who has not yet received what was promised. Those definitions are not lies, but they are past tense realities being carried into a present tense season, and they need to be consciously updated. I am someone who received what was promised. I am someone who stepped through the door. I am someone who is operating in the fullness of what was prepared for me. The second tool is what I would call the signal recognition practice. The new season communicates differently than the test season did. In the test season, the primary communication mode was silence and internal persistence. You were trained to hear God in the absence of external confirmation. You were trained to move on internal sensing rather than external evidence. Those capacities are genuine and they are still valid. But the new season adds a different layer of communication, the layer of confirmation through convergence. Convergence happens when multiple independent inputs, people, circumstances, opportunities, internal impressions, all begin pointing in the same direction without you having arranged them to do so. In the new season, convergence is one of the primary ways God signals that something is specifically yours. Not because every opportunity that presents itself simultaneously is yours, but because when the thing that is specifically yours begins to open, it tends to open from multiple directions at once. The internal sensing aligns with the external confirmation. The people who appear align with the direction you are already sensing internally. The opportunity that arrives fits the specific shape of the preparation you have been through. Learning to recognize convergence as distinct from coincidence is one of the most practical skills you can develop in the early phase of the new season. It protects you from both dismissing genuine divine confirmation as coincidence and from over-interpreting every positive development as convergence. Convergence has a specific feel. It is the sense of multiple things arriving at the same time from independent directions, pointing at the same thing, without any single one of them being sufficient on its own. Together, they constitute a clear signal. Pay attention to those moments. The third tool is what I would call the identity declaration practice. The identity declaration practice is simple and it is powerful, and most chosen ones resist it initially because it feels presumptuous. It is the practice of deliberately speaking over yourself the identity language of the new season, not wishing you were the person who has stepped into their destiny, not hoping you will be that person one day, speaking as that person now, because you are that person now. The test is complete. The preparation is done. The identity of the person who walks through the door of the new season is yours. It was paid for in the test. You did not earn it in the new season. You earned it in the waiting. What does the identity declaration practice look like practically? It looks like finding the specific language that describes who you are in the new season and speaking it consistently, internally and out loud until it becomes the dominant narrative of how you understand yourself. Not as an affirmation exercise in the general sense, as a specific act of claiming the identity that God has already assigned to you in this season and refusing to let the residue of the test season identity define you any longer than it was meant to. Here is something I want you to know about the identity declaration practice. It will feel uncomfortable at first. It will feel like you are claiming something that has not fully manifested in your external circumstances yet. That discomfort is normal, and it is not a sign that the practice is wrong. It is a sign that the interior is updating ahead of the exterior. The exterior will catch up. It always does. But the interior has to move first. And the interior moves through deliberate engagement with the language of who you actually are. The declaring is not making it true. The declaring is receiving what is already true. Chosen one, if you have been with this message long enough to hear everything that was laid out in the last few sections, you are not someone who wandered in casually. You are someone who needed exactly this. Most people scroll past the long messages. Most people stop when it requires something of them. The fact that you are still here, in this part of the message, is itself a sign. It is the sign of someone who is hungry for the specific kind of truth that does not leave you comfortable with a smaller version of what you were made for. Type "I receive" in the comments right now, not as a formula, as a declaration. I receive what this message was sent to carry. I receive the confirmation of the new season. I receive the identity that the test prepared me for. Type it now. There is a moment that comes for most chosen ones in the first phase of the new season that I want to prepare you for, so that when it arrives you know exactly what it is. I am going to call it the false summit moment. It is the moment, somewhere in the early weeks or months of the new season, when the movement that began to accelerate seems to plateau. When the doors that opened seem to pause in mid-opening. When the momentum that felt so clear starts to feel uncertain again, and everything inside of you that was built in the test season goes immediately to the familiar question: was this another false start? The false summit moment is not the end of the new season. It is a specific and predictable feature of how genuine new seasons unfold. And understanding what it is before it happens means that when it arrives, you will be able to name it correctly, rather than interpret it through the lens of the test season, which is the lens that says, this is another disappointment. This is the familiar pattern of almost, this is what always happens. The new season has a different rhythm than the test season. It does not move in a straight line from opening to full establishment. It moves in cycles, and the pause after the initial acceleration is not regression. It is consolidation. Consolidation is the season inside the season. The brief period where what was opened is being established, where what was planted is developing its root system beneath the surface before it pushes up through the visible ground, where the relational and circumstantial environment of the new season is being set in place around you in ways you cannot yet see. Chosen ones who push through the consolidation phase with full trust come out of it into the second wave of acceleration, ready to receive what the consolidation was establishing. Chosen ones who interpret the consolidation as a false start pull back, and in doing so create a gap between themselves and the momentum that was building for them. When the false summit moment comes, here is what to do. Do not interpret. Serve. Do not analyze whether the season is still open or has closed again. Find the smallest, most concrete thing in front of you that belongs to the new season and do it with full commitment. not as a strategy for accelerating what was paused, but as the act of a person who is faithful to their assignment, even in the moments when the assignment is not yet fully visible in its external form. The faithfulness in the pause is part of what the new season is looking at. It is the echo of the faithfulness in the test. And the new season, which is designed to reward what the test produced, rewards the faithfulness in the pause, the same way God rewarded Joseph for serving with excellence in the prison before the assignment arrived. The false summit moment passes every single time. The consolidation ends and the second wave of movement begins. And the chosen ones who held their position through the pause come into the second wave with a stability that the ones who pulled back do not yet have. The stability of having proven to themselves one more time that they can trust God in the absence of visible movement. The trust that was developed in the test season is now being used in the new season. It was not wasted. It was preparation for exactly this moment. I want to return for a moment to the language of the Hebrew scriptures, because there is something in the word yasha, the word for salvation and spaciousness, that I showed you earlier, that I did not finish explaining. The word yasha does not just describe the condition of having been made wide, it also describes the agent of that widening. The one who does the yasha, the one who creates the spaciousness, is not the one who was in the narrow place. It is always God. The grammar of the word in the original language is consistently in the form of God acting, not the person acting. This is significant for the transition you are in. The spaciousness of the new season is not something you produce by trying harder or by applying the right strategy or by finally figuring out the thing you were doing wrong. The spaciousness is something God is creating around you as you step through the door. Your role is not to produce the space. Your role is to step into it. Your role is to receive the widening rather than to manufacture it. And the test season, which required so much active effort and persistence and pressing, can create a misunderstanding in the chosen one that the new season will require the same kind of active striving. It does not. The new season requires active faithfulness and full presence. But the striving that characterized the test season, the pressing and the pushing and the holding on, that form of spiritual effort is not what the new season is asking for. The new season is asking for something that looks quieter from the outside, but is actually more demanding in a different way. It is asking you to receive, to allow, to open your hands rather than grip, to trust the yasha that God is performing rather than trying to assist it through anxious effort. I want to give you something specific to do before this part of the message ends. Not a spiritual discipline in the general sense, a specific practice that you can do today, in this next hour, in this next moment. I want you to close your eyes for a moment and picture yourself standing at a door, not a symbolic door in an abstract sense, a real, specific, solid door, and on the other side of that door is the version of your life that the new season has been designed to produce. Not every detail, because you do not need every detail right now. Just the sense of it, the atmosphere of it, the feeling of what it would be like to step through and have the door close behind you, completing the transition from the test season to the new one. Feel what your body does when you hold that image. Notice whether there is a resistance, a held-back quality, a waiting to see if it is real quality, or whether there is an opening, a reaching, a yes that comes from somewhere deeper than your mind. Whatever you feel is information. It is your interior, showing you where you currently are in the transition, not where you are supposed to be. Not a judgment about your readiness, simply information about what is currently true inside you. If you feel the resistance, it does not mean the door is not real. It means the old architecture is still running its protection protocols. That is, information about what to work with in the days ahead. If you feel the opening, let it be fully felt. Do not pull it back. Let the yes be as large as it naturally wants to be. Because a chosen one, allowing themselves to fully receive the confirmation that the new season is real, is not being presumptuous. They are being accurate. They are aligning their interior reality with the truth that God has already established about this season. The bags are packed, the door is in front of you, and the interior work that allowed you to arrive at this moment with everything the new season requires is complete in you. What we are going into next is the specific territory inside the new season. The obstacles that arise inside a new season are different in character from the obstacles in a test season. They require different responses, different tools, and understanding them before you encounter them means that when they appear, you will be able to navigate them with the knowledge of what they are, rather than the anxiety of what they might mean. There is something else ahead that most people are not told about the new season. Something that specifically addresses what happens in the brain and the nervous system when a chosen one has been through prolonged preparation and is stepping into a fundamentally different kind of life. I mentioned it briefly earlier. I promised I would come back to it. And what I have to show you there is one of the most practically significant things in this entire message. That is what the next part is for. What I have given you in this part of the message are the tools for the transition. But there is something that underlies all three tools that I want to name before we go further. The thing that makes all of them work, the thing that allows the release inventory and the signal recognition practice and the identity declaration to produce what they were designed to produce, is a specific shift in the orientation of your faith. A shift from faith as a posture of pressing toward an unseen thing to faith as a posture of reaching for a visible thing that God is already extending toward you. The posture of pressing served the test season. It is what got you through. But the posture of pressing applied in the new season creates friction where there should be flow. Because the new season is not designed to be pressed into, it is designed to be entered. It is designed to be received. It is designed to be inhabited by someone who has stopped requiring evidence before they allow themselves to believe, and who has started allowing what God is already extending to land. That shift in orientation is the final piece of preparation before we move into the specific landscape of what is opening. And making that shift, from pressing toward to reaching for, changes everything about the quality of the new season before a single external circumstance has moved, because the most important changes in the new season do not begin with the circumstances. They begin with the orientation of the person stepping into the circumstances, and you are about to step in. The shift from pressing toward to receiving from is not a small adjustment. It is a complete reorientation of the fundamental posture that sustained you through the test season. And because it is complete rather than partial, it touches things in you that you may not have expected it to touch. It touches the beliefs you formed about what effort means in the kingdom of God. It touches the understanding you developed about how breakthrough is obtained. It touches the identity you built around being someone who perseveres. All of that is real. All of that was genuinely developed in the test. And all of it now needs to be integrated into a larger framework that can hold both what the test required and what the new season requires without making one cancel out the other. There is an obstacle that appears in the transition between the test season and the new season that is not the same as the obstacles that appeared in the test season itself. The test season had external obstacles, circumstances that blocked movement, doors that stayed shut, timelines that stretched. Those obstacles were outside of you and they pressed against you. But the primary obstacle of the transition season is internal. It lives inside the person who is stepping through the door rather than outside the door they are stepping through. And because it is internal, it is often harder to see and harder to name than the external obstacles were. The first layer of this internal obstacle is what I would call the habit of waiting. Not the action of waiting, because the waiting is over, but the habit. The deeply established pattern of relating to your own life from a posture of anticipation and incompleteness. When you wait for a long time, the posture of waiting becomes automatic. It no longer requires a choice. It simply runs. And the person in whom waiting has become the dominant relational posture toward their own life will continue waiting even after the thing they were waiting for has arrived. Not consciously, not deliberately, but habitually. You may have already felt a version of this in the early days of this season, a moment when something genuinely new appeared, and the internal response was not the full-bodied yes you expected, but something more muted, something that registered the new thing but did not fully open to it, something that acknowledged the opening but held a portion of itself back, as if not entirely convinced that the opening was real or permanent. That is the habit of waiting, running in a new context, not a sign that you are failing to receive, a sign that the habit has not yet been consciously interrupted. Interrupting the habit of waiting requires a specific and deliberate act. It requires noticing, in the moment when the automatic response to something new is muted rather than open, that what you are experiencing is a habit rather than discernment. There is a difference. Discernment produces a settled sense of clarity about whether something is genuinely for you or not. The habit of waiting produces a diffuse reluctance that applies to everything new, not because something specific is wrong with what is being received, but because the nervous system has been calibrated to anticipate disappointment rather than completion. When you notice the muted response and recognize it as habit, the practice is this. You do not force enthusiasm, you do not feel, you do not perform an openness that has not yet arrived. You simply pause, name what is happening accurately, and then consciously choose the posture of the new season over the posture of the old one. This is a conversation with the part of you that learned to wait. It does not need to be dismissed or overridden with force. It needs to be thanked for the service it provided and gently released from the assignment. It is still trying to perform in a terrain where that assignment is no longer necessary. There is a particular moment in the story of the children of Israel leaving Egypt that most people read too quickly. After the plagues, after the parting of the sea, after the miraculous provisions of food and water in the wilderness, there came a day when the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire, the very visible presence that had guided every movement, stopped in a way they had not stopped before, and the people had to make a decision, not a decision about whether to follow, a decision about what following means when the guidance looks different than it did before. In the test season, the guidance of the Spirit often looks like a clear direction, a specific instruction, a narrow path with enough visibility to take the next step. In the new season, the guidance of the Spirit often looks like an open field, more space than there was before, multiple directions where before there was only one. And the person who has been trained to navigate by the narrow path will sometimes experience the open field as disorienting rather than liberating. Not because the open field is worse, because the navigation skills that served in the narrow path are not the same navigation skills that serve in the open field. This is not an absence of guidance. This is a different quality of guidance. In the narrow path, the guidance was external. The wall on either side made the choice obvious. In the open field, the guidance is internal. The question becomes not what is the only path available, but what is the path that is most aligned with who I am in this season and what the assignment requires. That is a more sophisticated navigation. It requires a more developed interior. And the test season, whether you realized it was doing this or not, was developing that interior. The second layer of the internal obstacle is what I would describe as the belief that breakthrough must be earned through sufficient difficulty. The test season, by its nature, produced an association in most chosen ones between receiving and having pressed hard enough. Breakthrough arrived. When it arrived, after enough endurance, after enough consistency, after enough of the right posture sustained long enough under the right conditions. And the mind that learned this pattern will naturally apply the same logic to the new season. It will look at the open door and ask, what more do I need to do before I am permitted to walk through it fully? What additional proving is required? What remaining price needs to be paid? This belief is one of the most insidious forms of blockage in the new season because it disguises itself as spiritual humility. It sounds like the voice of someone who does not want to presume, who does not want to take what has not been fully earned, who wants to be certain they have fully qualified before they allow themselves the full benefit of the new season. But spiritual humility is not the same as spiritual self-denial, and a chosen one who refuses to fully receive the new season on the grounds that they may not have earned it enough is not being humble. They are applying a currency system to grace that grace does not recognize. The new season is not a reward for having endured enough. The new season is a gift from a God who prepared a destiny before the test season began. You did not earn the new season by surviving the test. The test was not the payment for the new season. The test was the preparation for the new season. Those are different. A payment buys something. A preparation makes someone ready to receive something that was already theirs. The new season was already yours before you endured a single day of the test. The test made you ready to fully inhabit what was already prepared. I want to say that in a different way because I want it to land all the way through. The destiny that is waiting for you was not earned. It was assigned. Before the foundation of the world, according to the psalmist, before your days were formed, the book was written, not written as a possibility, written as an assignment. The test was not an audition for the assignment. The test was the preparation for something that was already decided. This means that the question is not whether you have qualified. You have been qualified by the one who assigned the destiny. The question is whether you are willing to inhabit a receiving posture in a season where your entire formation has been toward a pressing posture. That is a genuine challenge. It requires a genuine recalibration, but it is a recalibration toward something, not away from something. It is an expansion of the repertoire, not the abandonment of what was built. The pressing that built you does not become useless. It becomes the foundation under the feet of the one who now knows how to receive. What you pressed for, you are now prepared to receive. That sentence holds a promise and a challenge at the same time. The promise is that the pressing was not wasted. Every day of endurance built something real in you. The challenge is that receiving requires a different muscle than pressing, and that muscle may need some deliberate development in the early days of the new season, not because you are behind, because you are new to this terrain. The third layer of the internal obstacle is the fear of fully inhabiting what is specifically yours. This is different from the fear of disappointment, which is about protecting against the loss of something good. This is the fear that sits on the other side of loss aversion. It is the fear of actually receiving the thing. The fear of what it would mean about your life and your identity and your relationships if the thing you have been believing for actually fully arrives. This fear is rarely spoken about because it sounds illogical. Why would someone fear the very thing they have been waiting for? But the reality is that receiving the fullness of a long-awaited promise disrupts the identity that was organized around the waiting. It disrupts the relationships that were built around the common ground of the waiting season. It disrupts the social and relational role of the person Who was the one enduring, the one believing, the one pressing through? And even though the disruption is towards something better, disruption of any kind activates the system that is built to protect the familiar. Named, this fear loses most of its power. When a chosen one can say out loud, "I am afraid of what it means to actually receive this," not afraid I will not receive it, but afraid of what receiving it will require of me, and what it will change in my life, and who I will have to become to inhabit it fully. That naming creates an honest relationship with the fear rather than an unconscious avoidance of it. And an honest relationship with any fear is the beginning of the freedom to move forward through it rather than around it. Let me tell you what changes when the fear of inhabiting your assignment is named and released. Clarity arrives that was previously unavailable. Not clarity about every detail of how the assignment will unfold. Clarity about the direction. A sense of what yes feels like in your body when it comes from a place that is no longer guarded. A sense of what aligned means when it is not being filtered through the lens of what you have earned, or what you might lose, or what might have to change. The assignment that was prepared for you does not require you to be fearless in order to inhabit it. It only requires you to be willing. Willingness and fearlessness are not the same. Fearlessness is the absence of fear. Willingness is the choice to move in the presence of fear. And in the kingdom economy, willingness is always honored. The one who says, "I am afraid and I am choosing to step forward anyway," is the one who finds that with each step, the fear diminishes and the clarity increases. Not because the assignment got easier, because the person inhabiting it got more aligned with what they were prepared for. Your body carries the record of the test season, not in a metaphorical sense, in a literal physiological sense. The muscles of your shoulders and neck may hold a tension that was first formed in the middle of the test. The chest may carry a guardedness that developed as a response to repeated uncertainty. The stomach may hold a vigilance that was necessary in the test season and that has not yet received the signal that the terrain has changed. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of a body that was doing its job faithfully for a long season. Notice your body right now, not to judge what you find, but to see what is there. Start at the shoulders and let the awareness move downward. What is your chest doing as you receive this message? What is your stomach doing? Where in your body does the phrase, "the test is over and the destination is ready," land most directly? Where does it produce the most sensation, whether relief or resistance or warmth or something you cannot immediately name? The body needs the same permission to update that the mind does, and the body updates through sensation rather than through information. The information says the test is over, but the body updates when it is allowed to feel what over means. When the held tension is allowed to release, when the chest is allowed to soften, when the stomach is allowed to unclench from the vigilance that sustained you through the pressing, you do not force this. You simply give the body permission to respond to what is actually true right now. Let the breath be a little deeper than it has been. Just one breath. Not a performance of release, a genuine offering of space to your own body. And in that space, notice whether anything shifts, whether anything loosens that has been held, whether anything opens that has been protecting itself. The body knows when the season has changed. It has been waiting for permission to reflect the truth of the new terrain. Give it that permission now. The physiological shift that happens in a chosen one who fully allows the test season to be over is not subtle. The chronic tension that was developed to survive the uncertainty of the test has been consuming energy. When it releases, even partially, the energy that was going into maintaining that tension becomes available for other things, for creativity, for clarity, for the kind of engaged presence in the new season that the assignment requires. The body coming into alignment with the truth of the new season is not peripheral to the work ahead. It is part of the foundation of it. There is something else the body knows that the mind often argues with. The body knows what rest in the right environment feels like. Not rest from exhaustion, but rest as the natural state of a being who is exactly where they are supposed to be. In the test season, rest was always temporary. A recovery before the next round of pressing. A pause between the demands. In the new season, rest is not the interruption of the work. Rest is the condition from which the work flows. The assignment of the new season is not designed to press you into the ground. It is designed to grow upward from a root system that is deeply at rest in the knowledge of who you are and whose you are. There is a second Hebrew word I want to bring into this conversation because it adds a dimension to the transition that the word yasha alone does not capture. The word is Allah. It is most commonly translated as to go up or to ascend. But the ancient use of Allah in the context of moving from one state of being to another carries within it a specific nuance. The movement described by Allah is not just upward in the spatial sense. It is a movement that involves leaving something behind permanently. There is a direction to it, a forward-facing nature, a quality of irreversibility that distinguishes it from a temporary upward movement. The Allah that is happening in your life right now is permanent. You are not ascending into the new season for a trial period. You are not moving up temporarily to see if it fits. The movement is irreversible in the sense that the person who comes through the test season and steps through the door of the new season cannot go back to being the person they were before the test. Not because going back is forbidden, because that person no longer exists. The test transformed them, the formation changed them, and the one who steps through the door is not a better version of the same person. They are a genuinely different person who carries within them the knowledge and character that the test produced. That irreversibility is a gift, even though it does not always feel like one. There is a grief that comes with some transitions for the version of yourself you are leaving behind. The version that organized their life around the waiting, the version that knew how to navigate the test season because they had been in it for so long it had become familiar. Letting that version go has a cost, and the grief of that cost is allowed. It is real, but the person being grieved is not being lost. The person being grieved is being graduated. The qualities they developed, the faithfulness, the endurance, the specific trust that the test built, all of those qualities come through the door with you. What does not come through the door is the limitation, the narrowness, the compression, the tsara. Only the yasha comes through the door. The Allah also carries within it an ancient resonance with the concept of an offering. In the early texts, the most significant offerings brought before God were described with this same word. The Allah offering was the one that ascended completely. It was not partial. It was not a portion. It was the whole. And the language used to describe what God does with the Allah offering is the language of complete acceptance, full reception, not conditional, not partial, whole. When the ancient writers used this same word to describe the movement of a person from one season into another, they were drawing a connection that was not accidental. The transition you are in right now has the quality of an offering that is received completely, not partially, not conditionally. God is not receiving 90% of who you are, stepping into the new season and asking the other 10% to prove itself first. The Allah is complete. The reception is whole. What you are ascending into is not a waiting room adjacent to the destiny. What you are ascending into is the destiny. There are chosen ones who have been told by well-meaning voices around them that their breakthrough is conditional on something they have not yet done or something they have not yet fully become. And those voices, however sincere, have confused two things that the scripture never confuses. They have confused the conditions of the test with the nature of the promise. The test had conditions: show up, remain faithful, do not abandon the post. Those conditions were real, and you met them. The promise has no additional conditions. The promise was made before the conditions of the test were set. It stands on its own foundation, which is the character and faithfulness of the one who made it, not the sufficiency of the performance of the one who received it. This distinction matters in the new season because the voices that confused the test conditions with the promise conditions will still be present in the new season. They will still be capable of introducing doubt about whether you have done enough or been enough. And without a clear understanding of the difference between test conditions and promise conditions, a chosen one can spend the early days of the new season searching for additional qualifications instead of inhabiting the ground that was already given. Before we go into the next section of this message, I want to give you a moment to hold something, because what I am about to show you changes the way you see everything we have been talking about. Most of what I have described so far has been the interior architecture of the transition. The obstacles and the tools and the reframes and the ancient language, but there is a dimension of the new season that we have not yet addressed. And it is the dimension that most directly touches what happens when a chosen one, who has been through everything you have been through, steps into the full expression of their assignment. What I am going to show you involves something that was discovered in a laboratory by people who were not looking for a spiritual answer. They were looking for a neurological answer. And what they found illuminates from a completely different angle everything we have been talking about for the past hours. It explains why some chosen ones who are completely spiritually prepared for the new season find themselves in an unexpected struggle with actually inhabiting it. And it explains what the solution to that struggle is. I promise to come back to this. That is where we are going next. But first, I want to do something with you. Not just tell you something, do something with you. I want to take you through a specific experience that is designed to activate something in your interior that the information alone cannot activate. An experience that begins in your imagination and lands in your body. This is the guided mental activation that the framework of the new season requires. Find a position that allows your body to be relatively still, not uncomfortable, not rigid, just still enough that the external sensations are manageable and your attention can move inward. Take a breath that is slightly slower than your normal breath. Not forced, not dramatic, just slightly slower. And with that breath, begin to let your focus shift from the exterior world to the interior one. Picture yourself standing in a space that you have never physically stood in, but that your spirit knows. A space that is not crowded with the furniture of your old life. A space that is open, where the ceiling is high enough that you are not pressing against it, where the floor beneath you is solid, where there is light coming from a direction that is not the direction of struggle. This is not a place you are visiting. This is a place you are arriving in. You are not a tourist here. You belong here. The space was configured for you. In this space, notice what you are holding in your hands, not physically, internally. What are you still carrying that belongs to the old season? Not the gifts, not the wisdom, not the qualities the test built. What are you carrying that was built for the narrow place and is too heavy for the wide one? See it clearly, not as a judgment, as information, as the last act of the clearing before the full arrival. And now set it down, not violently, not with ceremony that draws out the difficulty. Simply set it down the way you set down a bag when you arrive at your destination. You do not need to understand everything it contained. You do not need to explain why you carried it as long as you did. You simply set it down here, in this space, and you step forward without it. And as you step forward, notice what your hands feel like when they are empty of that weight. Notice whether there is a lightness. Notice whether the space in front of you looks different when you are not weighted by what belongs to the previous season. Now look at what is in the space ahead of you, not with straining, with soft focus. What is present that was not present in the test season? What is available in this space that the narrow place could not hold? It does not need to be fully formed or fully visible. It only needs to be sensed. Your spirit recognizes the atmosphere of what was prepared for you before you can see every detail of it. Let the recognition happen without requiring the full picture first. Notice the quality of the air in this space. In the test season, the air had a certain texture. It had the texture of things unresolved, of waiting compressing into a smaller and smaller space, of hope being refined through the friction of uncertainty. The air in this space is different. It has the texture of things prepared, of ground that was cultivated while you were being formed, of relationships and opportunities and resources that have been held in readiness for the person you have become. The air in this space is the air of appointed time, kairos, not chronos. Not the ticking of incremental time, but the fullness of prepared time. Let your body feel the difference between the air of the test season and the air of the new one. Not analytically, sensorially. What does your chest do when you breathe in the air of prepared time? What does your throat do? What do your hands do? The somatic response to this imaginal experience is not imagination. It is your body beginning to calibrate to the truth of where you are. Let it calibrate. Let the physical be the confirmation of what the spiritual has already declared. Chosen one, you are standing in that space right now, not as a visualization that you will leave when this moment ends. The space is real. It is the interior territory of the season that is opening, and you are in it, and you are specifically right for being in it. The things you thought disqualified you are the very things that prepared you. The seasons you thought set you back were the seasons that set you up. The waiting that felt like exclusion was the formation that was making you exactly right for the assignment that was already inscribed before you waited a single day. Now take a breath and let the activation settle. Do not try to hold on to the specific images or sensations. The activation has happened whether you feel it intensely or quietly. The practice of returning to this space in the coming days will deepen what was opened today. You do not need to manufacture the feeling. You only need to return to the space and give your body and spirit permission to remember where they are. Chosen one, if you have been traveling this far in this message and something in the space I just described felt more real than you expected, type "I release" in the comments right now. Not because the releasing is finished, because naming it out loud, even in a small way, is an act of cooperation with what God is already completing in you. Type it, "I release." What is ahead in the next part of this message is the peace I have been building toward since the very beginning. The discovery. The neurological finding that changes everything about how you understand what happened to you in the test season and what is available to you now. It is the peace that bridges the spiritual language we have been using with a scientific anchor that will make the invitation of the new season impossible to dismiss. It is the peace that answers the question you have been carrying without knowing you were carrying it. And it is the peace that explains why God, who could have given you the answer earlier, waited until now to bring it to you. There is a moment in neuroscience history that did not receive the public attention it deserved when it happened. A moment that was documented in a laboratory by a researcher who was not trying to discover anything about spiritual formation or destiny, or the kind of interior transformation that happens in a chosen one who has been through the fire of the test season. He was trying to understand why the two sides of the human brain, in patients who had their corpus callosum severed, behaved as if they were two entirely separate intelligences, two distinct centers of awareness operating inside a single skull, each capable of receiving information, each capable of forming responses, each with its own way of processing what it observed. The researcher was Dr. Roger Sperry. The year was 1981, and the Nobel Committee recognized his findings as among the most significant contributions to the understanding of human consciousness in the 20th century. Not because the findings were what anyone expected, but because they revealed something about the architecture of the human mind that fundamentally changed how scientists understood what thinking actually is, what cognition is, what the full operating range of a human being genuinely looks like when the brain is functioning as it was designed to function, rather than as the conditions of their life have forced it to function. What Dr. Sperry found was not simply that the left brain handles language and the right brain handles spatial reasoning. That popular summary misses the deeper finding entirely. What he found was that when the two hemispheres of the brain are operating independently of each other, as they were in his split-brain patients, they display what can only be described as two fundamentally different modes of understanding, not just two different tasks. Two different ways of knowing, two different orientations toward meaning, pattern, relationship, and truth. The left hemisphere, when isolated, operates through sequential analysis. It processes information in order. It categorizes. It labels. It applies the logic of cause and effect to determine what something means. It is the hemisphere of the timeline, the argument, the explanation, and the plan. It is the hemisphere that is most comfortable with certainty, most productive when the variables are controlled, most fluent when the rules are known. In the test season, this hemisphere was running hard, constantly assessing, constantly calculating, constantly processing the information of an environment that was demanding an enormous amount of cognitive resources just to navigate. The right hemisphere, when isolated, operates through whole pattern recognition. It processes information simultaneously rather than sequentially. It perceives the gestalt before it perceives the parts. It is the hemisphere most associated with creative breakthrough, with sudden insight, with the sense of knowing something without knowing how you know it, with the experience of recognizing what belongs together before you can explain why. It is the hemisphere most fluent in the language of meaning, of context, of what a thing is in relationship to everything around it. And in the test season, for most chosen ones, this hemisphere was being systematically underserved, not because it stopped functioning, because the demand on the left hemisphere was so sustained that the integration between the two sides became progressively more difficult to access. What does any of this have to do with you? Everything, because here is what the research reveals about what happens to a human mind under sustained stress, under sustained pressure, under the kind of long-term compression that the test season applies to a chosen one who has been pressing through for months or years of waiting. Under those conditions, the brain does something that is deeply efficient in the short term and deeply costly in the long term. It begins to disproportionately weight the activity of the left hemisphere, the sequential, analytical, task-oriented hemisphere, the one that is most useful for navigating immediate threats and managing moment-to-moment uncertainty. This is not a failure of the mind. It is an adaptation. In the test season, you needed to be able to assess immediate circumstances accurately. You needed to identify the next step when you could not see the full path. You needed to manage information efficiently in conditions where the full picture was not available. The left hemisphere dominance that developed during the test season was the mind doing exactly what it was designed to do in conditions of prolonged uncertainty. But the adaptation that served you in the test season becomes the limitation in the new season, because the new season does not primarily require efficient navigation of immediate threats. The new season primarily requires the kind of whole pattern recognition, creative vision, and integrated knowing that the right hemisphere provides and that the left hemisphere alone cannot generate. Here is the cost that most chosen ones do not name because they do not know what to name it. The right hemisphere does not disappear under sustained stress, but its signal is suppressed. Its contribution to your understanding of your own life is reduced. And when the assignment of the new season requires exactly the kind of whole pattern recognition that the right hemisphere provides, a chosen one whose mind has been running predominantly in left hemisphere mode will struggle to access that recognition even when it is desperately needed. This is the neurological answer to a spiritual question that many chosen ones have carried without knowing what to call it. The question of why, in the early days of the new season, the clarity they expected has sometimes felt delayed. Why the vision that was supposed to crystallize has sometimes remained fuzzy. Why the sense of direction that should come with the open door has sometimes felt harder to access than the compression of the test season was. It is not a spiritual failure. It is a neurological residue of a season that required a particular mode of processing to survive. And here is what matters most. This is reversible. The suppression of whole brain integration that the test season produced is not permanent. It is a state, not a trait. A New York neurologist named Dr. Daniel Barone has spent years studying the specific interaction between the two hemispheres of the human brain in the context of what he calls cognitive coherence. The state in which the left and right hemispheres are working together with a level of integration that produces not just sharper thinking, but a fundamentally different quality of experience. A quality where the analytical mind and the pattern recognition mind are not competing but collaborating. Where the plan and the insight arrive together. Where the discipline and the creativity are not in tension but in harmony. What Dr. Barone developed, based on this research, is a method of restoring that integration through what he calls neural sync technology. Not a therapy, not a pharmaceutical, not a years-long process of rewiring. A specific, daily 8-minute practice that uses a particular kind of audio experience to stimulate the specific patterns of brain activity that correspond to deep left-right integration, the pattern of brain activity that Dr. Roger Sperry, in his Nobel Prize research, identified as the signature of a mind operating at the full spectrum of its designed capacity. He has named the experience this method produces whole brain activation, not activation of a single hemisphere. Activation of both hemispheres working together in the integration that the human brain was designed to achieve, but that most adults, and especially adults who have been through prolonged seasons of stress and pressure, rarely experience consistently. This is not a claim built on speculation. It is built on the same foundational research that earned Dr. Roger Sperry the Nobel Prize in 1981, extended and applied through Dr. Barone and his clinical work to the specific problem of restoring integration in adults whose hemispheric coherence has been reduced by extended seasons of high-demand, high-pressure navigation. I want to share with you what happens to a person who experiences consistent whole-brain activation, not as a promise made without evidence, but as the pattern observed across thousands of people who have engaged with this practice and reported their experience. The first thing that shifts, almost universally, is the quality of interior clarity. The sense of knowing what they know, without the need for the exhausting process of analytical verification before each decision, not a reckless intuition. A confident clarity that has both the precision of the analytical mind and the pattern awareness of the recognizing mind working together simultaneously. The second shift is in the speed and quality of creative problem solving, not just incremental improvement. The kind of lateral leap that connects two things that were previously unconnected and produces a solution that neither hemisphere, operating alone, would have found. The kind of thinking that in the test season was available only in rare moments of grace suddenly becomes accessible consistently because the architecture that produces it is no longer being suppressed by the sustained demand of survival mode processing. The third shift, and the one most relevant to everything we have been discussing, is in the experience of purpose and direction. The chosen ones who have integrated this practice into the early days of their new season report a quality of alignment that they describe with the same language used in the ancient texts. A sense of walking in a prepared path. A sense of the steps being ordered, not because the outer circumstances became certain, because the inner faculty for recognizing direction became clear. Because the right hemisphere, which processes pattern and meaning and relational context, came back online in a way that made the direction of the new season visible to them from the inside, rather than dependent on the external confirmation they had been waiting for. I want to address something that may be running in the background of your thinking right now. Something that sounds like this. I have heard about things like this before. I have tried things that promised what you are describing, and the gap between the promise and what actually happened left a residue that makes me careful now. That residue is real, and it is appropriate. Discernment in the new season includes not repeating the pattern of receiving promises that do not have the substance to fulfill them. But here is what is different about what I am describing. The foundation is not a personal development claim. It is Nobel Prize-level neuroscience. Dr. Roger Sperry did not win the Nobel Prize for a theory. He won it for a documented finding about the literal structure and function of the human brain. The application of that finding to a daily practice that restores hemispheric integration is not a leap of faith. It is an engineering project. The question is not whether the neurological finding is real. The Nobel Committee settled that question in 1981. The question is only whether the specific practice has been designed accurately enough to engage the mechanism that the finding describes. And that is precisely what Dr. Barone spent years of clinical work establishing. The other thing that makes this different is the guarantee. A promise with a complete, unconditional money-back guarantee is not a promise in the usual sense. It is a commitment backed by confidence. The kind of confidence that only exists when the results have been consistent enough to make the offer safe. You do not offer a complete guarantee on something you are not certain about. The guarantee is the most honest statement about the substance of the product, and it is complete. There is something Dr. Barone discovered in the early research that I want to stay on for a moment, because it is directly connected to the transition you are in. He found that the state of whole brain activation produces a specific effect on what he calls the genius switch, the name he chose for the specific neurological capacity for integrated insight, the kind of knowing that the ancient texts associated with wisdom, with divine counsel, with the ability to see not just the immediate circumstances, but the larger pattern within which the circumstances are embedded. In the test season, the genius switch, in most chosen ones, has been running at significantly reduced capacity. Not because they became less capable, because the sustained stress of the test required the brain to redirect resources toward immediate-term navigation. The genius that was assigned to them before the test was not lost in the test. It was held in reserve while the pressing was happening, and the restoration of that genius is not a distant possibility that requires additional seasons of waiting. It is available now. In the early days of the new season, through a specific practice that addresses the exact neurological pattern that the suppression created. I want to be transparent about why I am telling you this at this point in the message. Everything I have shared about the test season and the formation and the obstacles of the transition and the ancient language of the Allah has been honest, and it has been necessary. But it has also been preparation for this, for the moment where the interior territory that has been mapped connects with the specific tool that was designed for exactly the terrain you are entering. I am not building toward a sale. I am completing a preparation. There is a difference. The product Dr. Barone has made available through this research is called the Genius Switch. It is an audio-based, whole-brain activation system that delivers the neural sync technology in a format that can be used in 8 minutes a day in any environment without requiring any specialized equipment or training. You do not need any particular technical knowledge to use it. You do not need to understand the neuroscience to benefit from it. The design is intentionally accessible because the people who need it most are precisely the people who have the least cognitive bandwidth available for complexity in the early days of their transition. Lisa was a nurse in San Diego who had been through what she described as the most disorienting 2 years of her professional life. Not the most difficult in terms of external events, but the most disorienting in terms of her ability to access her own clarity. She had all the right circumstances for her new season. The door was open, the resources were present, the opportunity was ready, but she could not seem to access the clarity she needed to fully inhabit the space that was available to her. She described her thinking as running but not landing, active but not aligned, producing information without producing direction. Within the first week of using the Genius Switch, she noticed something she called the fog clearing, not the fog of her circumstances. Those had not changed significantly, the fog of her own interior. The thoughts that had been running on top of each other began to organize themselves without her having to force them. The sense of what the next step was arrived before the complete analysis of why it was the right step. She said that was the kind of knowing she had experienced in her early years, before the sustained pressure of the testing season had gradually suppressed it. Matthew built a business in Houston that was positioned to scale but found himself unable to access the creative clarity that scaling required. He had the strategy but had lost access to the inspiration that made the strategy come alive. He described himself as someone who knew all the right moves but could not feel why those moves mattered, could not access the deeper layer of meaning that would make the execution coherent rather than just correct. After 8 weeks of consistent whole brain activation through the Genius Switch, he said the creative dimension of his thinking, the dimension that connected the plan with the meaning, had returned in a way he had not expected and had not experienced in years. His team noticed the change before he fully articulated it to them. They said the ideas were back, not just the processes, the ideas. Ellie had carried something through her family line that she described as a pattern of proximity to breakthrough that never fully completed. Her grandparents had been close. Her parents had been close. She had been close multiple times, in multiple areas of her life. She came to a place of being fully willing to believe that the pattern was not her destiny, that the thing that had stopped her family for generations was not going to stop her. But the willingness of her spirit and the capacity of her mind to translate that willingness into the specific choices that would break the pattern were not yet in alignment. She used the Genius Switch during the season of transition, when she could feel the pattern preparing to repeat and needed the interior resource to respond differently. She said what it gave her was not courage. She already had courage. It gave her clarity. The specific clarity of knowing exactly which choice was the one that would not repeat the pattern. The clarity that distinguished the familiar pull of the old trajectory from the genuinely new direction that her spirit was pointing toward. She made the choice. The pattern broke. What Ellie experienced in the moment of that choice was what she described as an unexpected calm. Not the forced calm of someone suppressing the anxiety of a familiar pattern, the genuine calm of someone who could see clearly enough to choose without the urgency that the pattern had always created before. The pattern had always operated through urgency, a sense that the window was closing, that the moment had to be seized before it disappeared. That calm was not available. Ellie said that for the first time in her memory, at the moment of the key choice, the urgency was absent. And in the absence of the urgency, what the right choice was became unmistakable. She did not have to press through to the right answer. The right answer was simply visible in a way it had never been before. I want to be honest about what the genius switch is not. It is not a shortcut past the character that the test season built. It is not a replacement for the work of the new season. It is not a solution to circumstances that require wisdom and alignment to navigate. What it is a tool that restores access to the full neurological capacity that the test season temporarily suppressed, so that the wisdom you developed, the character, the formation built, and the assignment that was prepared for you can be inhabited from the full integration of the mind you were given. The science foundation of the genius switch is the same foundational research that earned Dr. Sperry the Nobel Prize. Neural sync technology is not built on speculation or on the unverified claims of personal development theory. It is built on the documented neurological finding that whole brain integration is the natural state of a healthy, fully resourced human mind, and that the specific forms of sustained pressure that most chosen ones have experienced in the test season create a specific, measurable, and reversible form of hemispheric imbalance that neural sync technology directly addresses. The regular price of the Genius Switch is $49. That is already a fraction of what a single session with a clinician who understands hemispheric integration would cost. Dr. Barone has made it available at $39 for those who find their way to it through the description link on this message. That $39 entry point is not permanent. It is available in this specific window for the specific population of people who are at the exact junction that this message is addressing. The early days of the new season, the transition between the test and the destination, the moment when whole brain activation would have the most concentrated and sustained impact on the quality of everything that follows. What comes with the Genius Switch at the $39 access point is not simply the core neural sync practice. It includes 4 additional resources that Dr. Barone and his team developed specifically for people navigating the transition between seasons. Resources that address the integration of the practical and the inspired, the anchoring of the new identity in a neurological pattern that sustains it, the development of the interior navigation that the open field of the new season requires. These resources are not fillers. They are targeted at the specific challenges of the transition period that we have been mapping throughout this message. The guarantee is complete. 100% of your investment returned, if within the period, provided you do not experience the quality of shift described. Not a partial guarantee. Not a conditional one. Not a guarantee that requires you to prove you used it correctly or long enough. Complete, because Dr. Barone is not offering a product on the basis of hope. He is offering a product on the basis of research and documented outcomes. And the guarantee reflects the confidence that the research justifies. There is a question that comes up in the thinking of some chosen ones at this point in the conversation, and I want to address it directly. The question sounds like this. If I have been through everything the test season required, if I have endured and pressed and remained faithful, why would I need a tool? Why is the restoration of what the test temporarily suppressed not automatic? Why does it not simply return on its own when the circumstances of the new season create the conditions for it? The honest answer is that for some chosen ones, it does return on its own. over time, as the sustained stress of the test season is replaced by the different quality of engagement that the new season brings. For those people, the restoration happens gradually, over months or years, as the neurological pattern that the stress created fades and the natural integration reasserts itself. But for chosen ones who are at the exact junction that this message is addressing, in the early days of the new season, when the assignment is present and the door is open and the preparation is complete, waiting months or years for the natural restoration is not the aligned choice. The aligned choice is to engage the specific practice that was designed to accelerate what would eventually happen anyway. Not because natural restoration is not real, because the timing of the new season does not ask for a slow recovery, it asks for the full resource of the person who was prepared for it. I want to say one more thing before we move into the final portion of this message. The counterfeit space that has formed around this type of technology is real, and it is significant. There are YouTube channels and audio platforms offering what they describe as brain synchronization or hemispheric balance experiences that are built on fundamentally different and unvalidated mechanisms. They use the language of the research without the substance of it. They generate experiences that feel significant in the moment without producing the sustained integration that the genuine practice produces. The specific neural sync technology in the Genius Switch is not available on YouTube. It is not available on Spotify. It is not available through any general streaming platform. The recordings that appear under similar language on free platforms are not the same technology. They are surface-level imitations that lack the specific design principles that make the genuine practice effective. The link in the description of this video takes you directly to the verified source. That is the only source I am directing you to. That is the only source that delivers what I have described in this message. The bag that you packed in the early days of the waiting season, the bag that held your faith and your consistency and your willingness to endure without a visible completion date, is not the bag you carry into the new season. That bag served its purpose. It carried what needed to be carried through the terrain it was built for. The bag for the new season is different. It is lighter in the ways that the test season was heavy, and it is built for a different kind of terrain. Not the terrain of pressing through, the terrain of fully inhabiting what was prepared. I want to name one more thing about what happens in the interior of a chosen one who enters the new season with access to their full neurological resource. Something that most people in the destination can tell you about, but that is difficult to describe until you have experienced it. There is a quality of ease that does not come from the absence of challenge. It comes from the presence of alignment. When the thing you are doing is what you were specifically made for, and the mind you are doing it with is operating at the full integration it was designed for, the effort that was enormous in the test season becomes something different. Not absent, different. The resistance that the test season required you to press through gives way to a kind of flow that you know is not self-generated because it is larger than what you could produce on your own. That is the experience of aligning with the destiny that was prepared rather than striving toward it from a distance. That is where you are going. Chosen one. Everything I have described about who you are and what you have been through leads to this moment. The test built you. The formation shaped you. The Allah is carrying you upward. The bags are packed and the destination is ready. And the genius that was suppressed by the season of pressing is ready to be fully restored for the assignment that is waiting. The link is in the description. The invitation is open. The season is now. Chosen one, if you have followed this entire message and you feel the specific quality of readiness, the sense that you are standing at the exact junction where this tool meets what you need right now, type "I am ready" in the comments below. I want to see you there. I want to know that you are stepping into the new season with every resource that the preparation of your test season has positioned you to receive. You have been with me for a long time in this message, and I do not want to move past the weight of that without acknowledging it. Not every person who began this message is still here at this point. Some stopped early, not because they were not chosen, but because the message was not for this moment in their journey. But you are here, and that is not an accident. The same presence that directed you to this message in the first place is the presence that has kept you through every part of it. There is a specificity to that, a precision to it that I do not want to pass over without naming. The person who arrived at the beginning of this message and the person who has traveled to this point are not precisely the same. Not because the information changed you, though some of the information may have been new, but because interior messages that address the real landscape of the interior life rather than the surface of the circumstances, do not leave the person who receives them unchanged. Something shifted in you while you listened. Something that was compressed began to expand. Something that was held in a waiting posture began to open. I do not know exactly what that was for you, but I know it was real. And the reality of what shifted does not require you to fully articulate it in order for it to have actually happened. What I want to do in this final portion of the message is not add more information. You have received a significant amount of information. What I want to do is help you complete the interior experience that this message was designed to produce, not as a performance, not as a ritual, as a genuine act of receiving what was prepared for this specific moment in your specific journey. The information fed the mind. What follows is for the full person, for the interior that is larger than the information it can hold. Before I bring you into the closing of this message, I want to spend time with something that is rarely addressed in messages about transition seasons. The question of what you carry forward, not what you leave behind. We have addressed that through this entire message. But what you carry forward, the specific inventory of what the test season actually deposited in you that is now a permanent resource for the assignment ahead. The first thing you carry forward is the knowledge of what the bottom looks like, not as a trauma to be managed, as a map. A chosen one who has been to the bottom of their faith, who has stood in the place where nothing external was confirming what the internal compass was pointing toward, who has maintained the posture of faithfulness without the emotional fuel that confirmation provides. That person carries a map of a territory that most people have never visited. And the assignment of the new season will at some point require someone who has that map. Someone who can accompany others to the same terrain without panicking because they have already navigated it and survived and been formed by it. The second thing you carry forward is the knowledge of what endurance actually costs. Not theoretical knowledge, embodied knowledge, the kind that is stored not just in the memory, but in the cells. The kind that, when someone else is in the early days of their test season and does not know how long it will last or whether the compass is trustworthy, makes your presence in their life worth more than the presence of someone who has never been in that terrain. The test produced in you a form of empathy that cannot be manufactured by information. It can only be developed through the actual experience of needing endurance and finding that the endurance was available, not because you were strong enough, but because the one who assigned the test had already prepared the resource for the endurance before the test began. The third thing you carry forward is the specific clarity about what does not work that only comes from having tried it. The chosen one who comes through the test season has attempted multiple strategies for accelerating what was not ready to be accelerated, has tried multiple postures for producing what was not ready to be produced, has approached the door from multiple angles before finding that it was not locked but simply not yet the time. All of those attempts produced a very specific, and very valuable knowledge, the knowledge of what does not work for you in your specific journey with your specific assignment. That knowledge protects the new season from repeating the costly experiments of the test season, not because you will not face new challenges, but because the categories of response that were ineffective have already been eliminated from your repertoire. The fourth thing you carry forward is the specific quality of trust that can only be developed in the dark. Trust that was not tested is not yet the trust that the new season requires. The trust you carry into the new season has been tested at the level of everything: your timeline, your identity, your relationships, your understanding of how God works. All of it was in the furnace of the test. And what emerged is not a diminished trust, but a purified one. A trust that is not dependent on circumstances confirming what it believes, because it has already been separated from that dependence by the test itself. That trust will be the foundation under every move of the new season, and it will hold because it has already held under conditions that the new season is unlikely to replicate. The fifth thing you carry forward is the specific character that was shaped by the waiting, patience that is not passive, the patience of someone who learned to be fully present in a season that felt incomplete, the patience that produced roots rather than restlessness, the patience that chose faithfulness when unfaithfulness would have been understandable. That patience is now a structural element of the person stepping into the new season. It does not produce hesitation in the new season. It produces depth. It produces the quality of presence that is not rattled by the unexpected and not disoriented by the non-linear. It produces the foundation under the feet of the one who is now free to move at the pace the new season requires. You came through the test season with all 5 of these: the map, the embodied knowledge, the clarity about what does not work, the purified trust, the deep patience. Those 5 qualities are the equipment of the new season, not in addition to the assignment, as the equipment for the assignment. The assignment was specifically shaped to require what the test specifically produced. That is not coincidence. That is the architecture of a God who designs the formation and the assignment to fit each other precisely. There is a way to understand the test season that most people arrive at only after the test is over. In the middle of it, the dominant experience was one of constraint, of limitation, of being a person with capacity operating in a space that did not allow that capacity its full expression. That experience is accurate as a description of the test, but it is incomplete as a description of what was happening in the test. Because what was also happening in the test, simultaneously and continuously, was the expansion of the capacity itself. The constraint was not suppressing what already existed. It was developing what would be needed. A person with a gift for music that has never played before a demanding audience has a capacity, but they do not yet have the resilience that performing under pressure produces. The capacity grows larger through the performance. What the audience demands of the performer is not merely the expression of what already existed, but the development of what was latent. The test season was the demanding audience. Your faithfulness was the performance. And the capacity that emerged from sustained performance under pressure is measurably larger than the capacity that entered the test. The new season does not receive a person who is finally allowed to use what they always had. It receives a person who now has what they could not have had without the test. I want to say something specific to the chosen ones in this message who have been through the kind of test that involved public exposure. The kind of test where not just your interior, but your exterior was placed under sustained scrutiny, where people who did not understand the nature of the test formed opinions about you based on what they observed in the compression. where your reputation or your relationships or your professional standing were affected by the conditions of the season. That specific dimension of the test is one of the most difficult because it adds the dimension of visibility to all the other dimensions of endurance. But here is what the visible test produces that the hidden test alone cannot produce. It produces the quality of character that has been formed under observation. A character that held its integrity not just when no one was watching, but specifically when everyone was watching, and the watching was not compassionate. A character that did not perform a better version of itself for the audience, but simply remained itself regardless of what the observation cost. That character, the one that was proved under the specific conditions of visible testing, carries an authority in the new season that no amount of private formation alone could produce. People can feel the difference between a person who has been formed in private and a person who has been formed in public, and the assignment of the new season will, at some point, require that specific authority. The new season will introduce you to people who need what you carry, not in a theoretical or generic sense. The specific people whose terrain corresponds to the specific map you developed. They have been waiting for someone who has the specific combination of qualities that the test produced in you. Not because there is no one else who could help them, because you are the specific person who was prepared to help them in the specific way that their specific need requires. That is the meaning of the word destiny in its fullest sense. Not just the fulfillment of what was promised to you, the fulfillment of what was prepared through you for others. The new season will introduce you to people who need what you carry, not in a theoretical or generic sense, the specific people whose terrain corresponds to the specific map you developed. They have been waiting for someone who has the specific combination of qualities that the test produced in you, not because there is no one else who could help them, because you are the specific person who was prepared to help them in the specific way that their specific need requires. That is the meaning of the word destiny in its fullest sense. Not just the fulfillment of what was promised to you, the fulfillment of what was prepared through you for others. I want to speak to the chosen ones in this message who have been carrying a specific version of the waiting that involved watching others who seemed less prepared or less faithful step into seasons that looked like what you were waiting for. The ones for whom the question, "Why not me?" had a sharper edge, because the comparison was not abstract, but specific. That sharpness was real. I am not going to minimize it or reframe it as a misunderstanding. The gap between what you observed in others and what was available to you in that season was genuinely painful. And the pain was not a sign of weakness or ingratitude. It was a sign of a heart that was deeply invested in what it was waiting for. But here is what that comparison did not know. It did not know what the specific assignment required. The assignment that was prepared for you was not the same as the assignment that was prepared for the person whose new season arrived earlier. The timing difference was not a quality difference. It was a preparation difference. The longer preparation was not a punishment. It was a specification for an assignment that required exactly what the longer preparation produced. That does not make the pain of the waiting retroactively painless, but it changes the meaning of it. What felt like being passed over was actually being held for a specific preparation that the earlier timing could not have completed. I want to name something about the transition between the test season and the new season that is specific to the chosen ones who have spent a significant portion of their test in isolation. Not geographic isolation necessarily, but the specific isolation of being in a season that most of the people around you were not in. The isolation of carrying a compass that pointed in a direction that the consensus of your environment did not support. The isolation of knowing something about your assignment that you could not yet demonstrate and could not yet prove. That isolation produced a specific interior development. The development of an interior that is not dependent on external validation to remain oriented, an interior that can maintain its direction without the confirmation of being surrounded by people who see the same thing you see. That specific development is one of the most valuable things you carry into the new season. Because the assignment of the new season will require you to initiate movement in directions that the majority of your environment may not immediately understand, and the person who needs unanimous agreement before they move will be unable to execute the assignment. But you have already learned to move without unanimous agreement. The test season taught you that, and that lesson is now equipment. The relational landscape of the new season will also be different from the relational landscape of the test season. Specifically, the new season will bring into your life people who are at the same junction that you are at now, or who were at that junction in a recent season and who have the same orientation you have. The sense of finally being in a room where people speak the same interior language that you have been speaking alone, where the references make sense, where the experiences resonate, rather than requiring extensive explanation. That relational dimension of the new season is not peripheral. It is part of the assignment. The chosen ones who step into the new season together, who carry the accumulated formation of their respective test seasons into a shared space of aligned purpose, produce something that none of them could produce alone. There is a quality of gratitude that is different from the gratitude of relief. The gratitude of relief says, "I am glad this hard thing is over." That gratitude is real, but it is oriented toward the past. It is glad that something ended. The gratitude I want to invite you into is oriented toward what is present. It is the gratitude that says, "I can see what is here. I can see what was prepared. I can see that the season I am standing in was not accidental and was not generic. It was designed for me." Chosen one, the test that you came through was not a mistake. It was not a delay that the universe owes you an apology for. It was not a detour from your destiny. It was the terrain through which the person who is able to fully inhabit the destiny was formed. And the fact that you are here, having traveled through all of it, means that the formation completed what it was designed to complete. Not perfectly, not without scars, but completely enough for the door to open, completely enough for the bags to be packed, completely enough for the destination to be real and present and available to you right now. Take a moment right now, not a long moment, but a genuine one, to simply notice what is true. The test season is behind you. The destination is ahead of you. You are in the passage between them, and you are not alone in the passage. You have never been alone in the passage. The presence that sustained you through every day of the test is the same presence that is accompanying you through the transition and will be present in the new season in ways that the test season did not yet allow you to fully experience. The release act of this message is simple, and it is this. Right now, in this moment, with as much of your interior available as is available to you in this moment, release the need for the new season to validate the test season. The test season does not require the new season to prove that it was worth it. The character that was built in the test is its own evidence. The faithfulness that was developed is its own reward. The depth that was created in the pressing is not waiting for external confirmation to be real. It is already real. And releasing the need for the new season to justify the test season frees you to receive the new season on its own terms, as the gift it is, rather than as the payment you are owed. There may be people in your life who watched you press through the test season and who are waiting to see whether the new season arrives in a form that they will recognize as a worthy completion of what you endured. Release the new season from the burden of performing for those observers. The new season is not for their vindication of your journey. The new season is for the fulfillment of the assignment that was prepared before any of those people knew you were on the journey. Let them observe it. but do not make the form of the new season hostage to what their observation requires. Release the version of the new season that you imagined during the test, not because the new season will be less than what you imagined, but because the imagination of the test season was limited by the perspective of the test season. What was prepared is larger than the imagination that sustained you through the pressing, more multidimensional, more connected to the larger purposes of the one who designed the assignment. The version you imagined was built from the perspective of someone who needed a destination to hold on to. The actual destination was built from the perspective of someone who could see the full landscape of what you were becoming. Those are not the same view, and what was prepared from the larger view is more than the imagination from the smaller one could have contained. There is a specific practice that I want to leave you with for the first 90 days of the new season. The first 90 days are the most important days in the transition because they are the days when the identity of the new season either becomes established or defaults back to the identity of the test season. The practice is this. Once a day, in the morning before the demands of the day begin, speak the destination aloud, not as a wish, as a declaration of what is real, not as an aspiration you are working toward, as a statement of a season you have entered. The language matters. The mind updates through repetition, and daily, deliberate repetition of the truth of the new season begins to replace the habitual language of the test season that may still be running in the background. The specific declaration you made in this message is a good starting point. Modify it as the specific contours of your assignment become clearer. Add the specific language of what you are stepping into as it becomes visible. Let the declaration grow with the season, but do not wait for perfect clarity to begin declaring. The declaration itself accelerates the clarity. The act of speaking the new season into the daily rhythm of your life is part of how the new season becomes established in the interior. And the interior is always the territory where the outer life is first built. Alongside the declaration, maintain the 8-minute daily practice that was described in the previous section of this message. Not because the practice and the declaration are the same thing, they are not. The declaration works in the dimension of identity and orientation. The genius switch practice works in the dimension of neurological integration. Both are needed. The declaration, without the full neurological resource to execute it, is an aspiration constrained by a suppressed capacity. The neurological practice without the identity declaration may restore the resource without directing it clearly. Together they form the complete interior posture of the new season. The integration of who you are declaring yourself to be and the full cognitive resource of a mind that is operating at the capacity it was designed for. And this is the declaration that I want you to speak into this moment, not into the air as an empty formula, into the specific interior space of your own life, with the full weight of everything you have been through and everything you are stepping into. Speak it as the one who pressed through. Speak it as the one who remained. Speak it as the one who is still here, at this part of this message, at this point in this journey, because something in you knew that this was the appointed time, and this was the appointed message, and the destination that was prepared is the one that is opening right now. The declaration is this: I was chosen before the test began. I was prepared through the test for an assignment that was already written. The waiting is over. The bags are packed. The destination is real. I receive the new season as the gift it is, with the mind that was built for it, with the character that was formed through it, with the full neurological resource that is being restored for it. I do not press toward it. I step into it because it was prepared for me and I was prepared for it. And the one who prepared both the assignment and the person is faithful. And what the faithful one prepares, The faithful one completes. Chosen one, you just said something true. Whether you spoke it out loud or held it in your interior, you said something that the enemy of your purpose heard, and the heaven that was witness to your test heard. You declared the end of the pressing season and the beginning of the receiving season. You declared yourself ready, not presumptuous, ready. And ready is exactly what you are. That declaration is now active. It is not a hope you are holding. It is a statement you have made about the reality of your season, spoken from the interior of a person who pressed through and arrived. Declarations made from that posture carry a different weight than declarations made from the middle of the test. In the middle of the test, declarations were acts of faith in the absence of visible evidence. In the transition season, declarations are acts of agreement with what has already been decided. You are not reaching for something that may or may not come. You are agreeing with something that has already been prepared. And agreement at the level of the full interior is the mechanism by which the prepared thing becomes inhabited. That is what you just did. And the heaven that saw every day of the test saw you do it. There is one more layer of this closing that I want to bring before we conclude, because the new season does not begin in a moment and then freeze. It unfolds. And the unfolding of the new season will include moments that feel familiar to the test. Moments where the circumstances do not yet reflect what you have declared. Moments where the gap between the destination that was promised and the reality of where you are standing is still visible and still uncomfortable. When those moments come, and they will come, the practice is not to return to the pressing posture. The practice is to remember the distinction between circumstances that are still catching up and a destiny that has been revoked. Circumstances move at the pace of time. Destiny moves at the pace of the one who set it. And those two paces are not always the same. The chosen one, who confuses slow-moving circumstances with a revoked promise, returns to the pressing posture unnecessarily and loses the alignment of the new season while they are pressing for something that was never taken away. The circumstances will catch up. The bags are packed. The destination is real. The journey between the packing and the arrival may still have its own terrain, but you are not navigating that terrain as the person you were at the beginning of the test. You are navigating it as the person the test produced. The person who knows what endurance costs and what it builds. The person who knows the difference between a delay and a denial. The person who has received, at the fullness of this specific moment, the declaration that the testing season is complete and the destination is open. If this message has traveled all the way through you today, I need you to do something. I need you to type one more thing in the comments. Type, "I am ready for everything that was prepared," not as a performance, as a declaration. Let the comment section of this message be the record of the chosen ones who were present for this specific appointed time and who said yes to the invitation of the new season out loud. Type it. I am ready for everything that was prepared. The like button on this message is not a courtesy gesture. It is a signal. When you engage with this message, the platform understands that this message reached someone, that it landed, that it did what a message for chosen ones at this specific junction was designed to do. If this message found you, if it traveled all the way to the interior and did not stop at the surface, press the like button now. Let it be an act of acknowledgement that something real happened here. Your engagement reaches the next chosen one who is waiting for this message and does not know where it is yet. Share this message with one person, not with everyone you know, with one person. The one who has been pressing through a test season and who is at the same junction you are at. Not because they need to receive the same message in the same way. Because the chosen ones in the same season of transition recognize each other, And there is something about being recognized by someone who sees where you are that accelerates what the transition is producing. You are not the only one, and neither are they. The share takes one moment. What it produces in the person who receives it may be the thing that tips their interior from pressing to receiving. The link for the Genius Switch is in the description of this video. That is where you access the neural sync technology that addresses the specific neurological residue that the test season left. That is where you access the tool that Dr. Daniel Barone built from the foundational research of Dr. Roger Sperry. The link is in the description. The access point of $39 is available now. The guarantee is complete. The invitation is open. Chosen one, I want to leave you with this. The God who began the work in you did not begin it as an experiment. He began it knowing the end from the beginning. He began it knowing what the test would cost you and what it would build. He began it knowing the day the test would be complete and the day the new season would open. And that day is not some future abstract possibility. That day is the one you are in right now. You have arrived at what was prepared. You have become what was needed. You are exactly where the appointed time positioned you to be. The bags are packed, the destination is ready, the test is over. Walk into everything that was prepared for you, all of it, with the full resource of who you have become, with the full access of a mind that was built for this assignment and is being restored to operate at the full spectrum of what it was designed for, with the full peace of someone who does not have to earn what is already theirs. And if you are still here, all the way to these final words, I want you to know that your presence through this entire message was not passive. Something was activated in you through the full journey of what you received here. That activation does not require your management or your effort to continue. It only requires your cooperation. Say yes to what is opening. Say yes to the tool that was designed for the transition. Say yes to the declaration you made. Say yes to the new season in its fullness. I will be here when the new season produces the testimony that was prepared with it. When the destination you stepped into shows its full face, I want to hear it. Drop it in the comments when it arrives. Not if, when. Because what was prepared for you is real, and real things complete. God bless you, chosen one. The test is over.